in a circular plaza ahead. The mist was thickest here, flowing out in great gaudy plumes, whipped by the wind that roared from the heights. Ickis hissed out that they're going to the Odeon. In the gelate wastes, the octopus was rambling on about the location where the Three Moons Initiative kept their huge space portal thingy, while Okori asked her father what she is. Her father says that she knows what she is, a child of magic. She angrily responds that she's a child of Obi and Anjali Okori, as far as she knows, and that doesn't explain why she can do magic with her bare hands. He asks her if they need to do this right this minute, as who knows when their friend is going to climb back out after being overwhelmed by the gel. The White Lord speaks faintly in her head, saying, eventually, but she ignores it, and says that she needs to know, as she's tired of waiting. She's always known something was wrong, as his story doesn't add up. Ilsa Reinders was exposed to more esoteric gunk than both of her parents combined, and she isn't some human unicorn. She wants the truth right now, or they might as well wait for the man in white to catch up. Her father says that her mother was a hell of a catch for the Foundation, though not quite as much as she was for him. She was a Serpent's Hand librarian, familiar with some tiny, immeasurably small percentage of the library's collection, which meant that she knew more books of magic than the Foundation even knew existed. She even knew something of the Anethium of Severed Tongues, how to get there, and what they might find. It's a library in Alagada, one they thought was fairly safe. They were engaged to be married when he went through the gate into Alagada with his armed escort, with her having to stay behind as they didn't trust her yet. They emerged in the Anethium, with him thinking that Alagada knows what you want when you enter, or perhaps it knows where you'll do the most harm, or where the most harm will come to you. He was inches from his prize, a book whose name he can't remember now, when he saw her, and he was ruined. She was short, about as tall as Ibanez, with smooth, dark skin and long, curled black hair. She had amber eyes he could see from behind her mask, and he never ended up retrieving the book. The Foundation pulled him out of Alagada 3 days later, along with the rest of the escort, all spent and stark raving mad. When he came to his senses, he told Anjali everything, and she was very clinical about it. She told him what that place did to the mind, the body, and the soul. She had known that something like this could happen, was likely to happen, but she hoped that it wouldn't. He only saw the other woman one more time, when she came to their home and delivered his daughter to him. Dr. Okori didn't feel like screaming, or weeping, or wailing, or gnashing her teeth. Mostly, she felt tired, so she placed a hand on her father's shoulder and asked what she was. He says she was Alagada, but he doesn't know more than that. She gave him a moment, but all he could manage was a sad, stuttering sound. She squeezed his shoulder and nodded through the tears she hadn't realized she'd been crying, saying that she was a demon by any other name. In Alagada, Ickis declines to enter the theater, known as the Odeon, promising instead to watch Ibanez's back. She was amenable, as the ramparts of the Odeon were filled with the same gold-masked figures they'd seen prowling the streets, and she didn't fancy meeting one up close. The broad oak doors were wide open, the encircling foyer beyond devoid of both life and smog. She stepped onto the rich saffron carpet, which emitted small clouds of yellow, deflected by the incense in her mask. She looked at the rows of soaring columns, following them up and up before forcing her eyes back down, as there was no ceiling. She thinks to herself that this whole city is a trap, and the voice tells her to mind her step. She reaches for her service weapon as she crosses out of open doors with an inscription written over them. She couldn't read it at first, but the Alleghanian letters melted into English, and it read, "True art is suffering." She thinks that they'd have an easier time defining what isn't a cognito hazard here, and a different voice says that if she's worried about the state of her mind, she came to the wrong city-state. She hears a tremendous atonal crash, followed by another, and then an only technically musical pattering of notes in frantic discord as she walked in. The theater space was a cavern of wood and yellow curtains, moldering with black. She had expected it to be empty, but nearly every seat was filled, with thousands of Alleghanians staring at the performer on stage, their eye and mouth holes clotted with bile, pus, and blood. Many of them were unmoving, while many more were shuddering, coughing, sneezing, and weeping. Gold-masked attendants walked the aisles, pressing the uncongealed matter back into the masks to a litany of strangled protests. The voice tells her to stay her no doubt appreciative hand, as applause is forbidden in Alagada. Yellow carpet was virtually spotless, with no mist, and the air in the theater was instead filled with raucous unmusic, pouring from a tremendous black piano on the stage, where a figure in flaxen robes hammered madly at the keys. His hands were covered by its bunched-up robes, and he was slamming into the piano with fists, or picking out the anti-melody with mummified fingertips. The voice asks her if she believes in the virology of ideas. She starts walking down the aisle and tells the voice that if it's talking about memetics, she knows enough to get by. The voice, identified as the Yellow Lord, laughs and says that there was poison in the world before the first word, but the first word heralded the poisoner's golden age. Ibanez was getting a headache as she continued down the aisle. The Yellow Lord asked he give her the key, the literal piece of metal that fits in a literal lock, and she won't have to cancel his perverted recital. The Yellow Lord drifts away from the piano and asks what's her poison, if not music or words. It cocks its head to one side and says that it has settled on boils, or perhaps boiling. Ibanez shrugs and tells it to do its worst, as disease is meaningless where she comes from. It asks if she's touched, as she has spent too much time in Alagada, and disease is a language universal. She sits down on the piano stool and leans back, telling the Lord that it's been trapped here a long time, so she guesses it doesn't know. Her earth is gripped by a disease that never ends, eating them away day by day, and they don't care. They go about their business, not worrying about getting sick or about getting other people sick, and they pretend like it isn't happening because they're bored with it. The Lord wavers in the air and says that this is a theater of music, and if it's comedy she wants, try the Agonium or the Globe. Ibanez chuckles and says the Globe is right. A global pandemic. They can't be bothered to give a crap. Not about themselves, as they know they're invincible, and not about others, because they're not them. Disease holds no meaning when you're touched in the head like they are. She leans forward and says that they once imagined a world without disease, and they could have had it, but they found something better. Apathy. The original voice returns and says that words are like a virus. They get inside and eat you up. The Yellow Lord shudders and looks around frantically for the source of the voice, but a thick black ooze began pouring out of the Lord's eyes and mouth. It plummeted to the stage and struck like a burlap sack full of rotten produce, its brilliant robes stained sable. She tells the voice that it works slow, but it responds that rot is a process, not an event. She stood up and began hitting the keys on the piano, finding a dead one. She then took a leg off the bench and smashed it down in the dead key, revealing a metal key in the wreckage. Okori, meanwhile, was in the process of casting another spell without magical reagents, tracing a sigil in the air. There was a rush of wind, a scattering of gel balls, and a pleasant whooshing beneath her lab coat. She continued by drawing a ring around the giant octopus, then a series of jagged lines beneath, and another bifurcated circle. This caused a deep rumbling in the earth, and the 8 liege began to rise. It happily says that it has never flown before, as it is unlicensed, but Okori assures it that the air traffic controllers have bigger fish to fry today, glancing at the black gloom in the distance. She continues her spell, ripping the octopus free from the gel entirely, and it continued to rise. Okori marveled at the ease with which she held the massive octopus afloat, and it let down some tentacles to let Okori and her father climb up. Her spell was holding even without her concentration, and she couldn't even begin to comprehend what she had done. They were heading to the Three Moons Initiative fortress known as Dichotomy, while the White Lord continued to speak into her mind, taunting her that she was close to the final revelations. Back in Alagada, Ibanez and Ickes had continued on to the gate of the Sanguine Quarter, home of the Red Lord. Here he plans on leaving her, and she thanks him for the help. He responds that he may yet save these benighted souls with their persecutor absent. He can feel the mystic airs returning here, day by day, but there is time enough to do right, and he must set to it. He then tells her that if she means to confront the lord of this place, whoever or whatever that presently may be, he would give her one final warning. He once had the misfortune to attend a performance of the Hanged King's tragedy, and he is cursed to remember each word that was spoken. He then recites a particular section that may serve to gird her for the struggles ahead. In the passage, the ambassador says, "He is our Lord, but lieges greater still reside beneath our feet and long to sup on mortal hearts, emboldened by the lie that there exists a thing we call free will." The king responds, "You might be driven thither with one clap, so test me, and decline to shut your trap. I'll open mine." Ibanez frowns, doubts, but nods anyways, telling him that she'll keep that in mind. He tells her to take care that she leave this place better than when she found it, which is not a high bar to clear, but perhaps more difficult than she imagines. She shakes his hand and walks through the villain's gate into the sanguine portal. After leaving him, the voice cheerfully calls Ickis an optimistic idiot. Ibanez remarks on the coward finally speaking, looking at the golden paved streets and ruby windows. The voice says that perhaps it just doesn't like doctors, that it's had several decades worth of bad experience. She says that it gave as good as it got, she hears. Sanguine Quarter seems abandoned, its doors shut and its streets empty of the half-corpses littering the rest of the city. She asks the voice where everyone is, and it responds that they're inside. When she asks inside what, it just says that she'll see. She then makes her way down the central boulevard, which leads to a mammoth structure of gilded bloodwood, the heart of a plaza with countless other streets running to and fro. It looked for all the world like a brothel. She preemptively tells the voice to shut up, but it says that it was only going to say that she's well dressed for the occasion. Corey, on the other hand, was soaring through the skies of Corbinick on the back of a massive octopus creature, savoring the staggeringly beautiful view. She could see all of Corbinick stretched out before her as a flat plain of gorgeous nonsense. Mile-high apes, a mountain piercing the clouds like an angry fist, a throbbing sea of gunk and gristle ebbing into an almost motionless gray-green river, a colossal stone cube surrounded by a mass of indistinguishable human figures cavorting obscenely with one another. She desperately wanted to know more about it all, but the White Lord spoke in her mind, telling her that she is the student today, and the student doesn't choose the lessons. It was now following them again with ease, gliding along the endless tentacle towards them. She asks her father how he got here, although the fact that he had brushed the question aside the first time had filled her with dread. He tells her that they have ways and means, and she knows that he can't tell her everything. Suddenly, 2 high-tech aircraft blew past them, the rush of air nearly knocking them off. The planes had blue lanterns hanging in front of their cockpits, as they were built in the image of anglerfish. She says to her father that they're in what you might call a strenuous situation, and a little clarity would go a long way. He says that they have only one way of reaching Corbinick, and it's not terrific. It's called Procedure 42 Humbaba, and it involves putting perfectly healthy people into comas. She's shocked that he would let them put him into a coma at his age, but he says that he asked them to do it. Corbinick has a way of making you face the things you've done and the mistakes you've made, so nobody else could be sure of meeting her in the desert. He hadn't told her something she deserved to hear, and this let him tell her what she needs to know. He continues by saying that they have MTFs over here, but no contact with them. There's a phone app that they can use to communicate, but Okori didn't take her phone with her to Alagada. This is the only way she gets home, and that's all that matters to him. The Three Moons Initiative can bore holes through the whole damn foundation, so long as he knows that she and her mother are safe. She finally looked at him and tells him not to take any more risks, and maybe she'll forgive him. He promises, but eventually they come up to the floating crystal citadel.
What up?
Listing to one side is the mass of black.
Yeah, it's 5 a.m. in the morning here.
King strangled it.
It's
The 2 aircraft are pelting
Hope you're doing all right, man. Good to
barrages
see you.
of rainbow-hued light to no success. Her father mutters that perhaps there will be one more risk.
I was just checking on my
however,
game.
was heading into the brothel, opening the maple door, which let out a rush of thin red liquid, pooling around her boots. Her first thought was that it was blood, but her second thought was more sensible. Wine. There was a stirring and candlelit murk inside, and the Red Lord spoke.
How you doing, brother? You doing all right? Can you hear me? Let me know if the transmission's choppy. It was perfect until you showed up. Now it'll probably drop to
zero. The door
zero.
all the way, as that would kick her out of Aligata when she tried to leave.
That's the way they like to roll.
The floor was paneled with massive redwood boards, as though the better part of California had been chopped down to finish this single tremendous space. There was a polished bar as long as her gaze could travel. Hundreds of upright tables.
No, I hadn't checked, man. I'll have to get in there and check. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Thank you. A million times. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm drinking the last. I still got all the last coffee you brought me, man.
The ceiling was a mirror of the floor.
You have become my coffee sponsor for the channel, and I appreciate that, man.
She now saw the
what was I going to say?
Seated on the far end of the building at a large round table with a stained red cloth.
Tired.
A mountain of slowly
Thursday, Friday, I have like 8 online classes per day. So imagine that. Like today is another day. Friday. It's Friday morning here right now. It's Friday morning.
Dress and says that drinking alone hardly suits his reputation. The Red Lord laughs, calling her a delectable little ball of curves and muscles.
So what's been going on?
Maybe he should let her take her pent-up energy out on him.
Although it's
possible only.
So what's been going on is this. I usually, in the past, I would do my lesson prep in the evening. Nice. Thank you for that, man. I appreciate that, Jeff. Yeah, I saw it. The other day I was over there and I saw that David Guatemala had fired off some 18-inch cannons off the side of a battleship, a destroyer. USS Liberty, huh? USS Liberty, what was that? That wasn't even it was like an oiler or something. I looked it up real quick, but I didn't have time to research it, man, because like I said, with 8 classes, I have to do a lot of lesson prep. Typically for one online class, I need to do 30 minutes to an hour of getting ready just for one class, you know? So if you figure you got 16 hours of classes in 2 days, you've got to spend anywhere from 10 to 15 hours doing office work to prepare for those and to document them and stuff. It's kind of a big deal. I mean, I've been teaching a long time. I've got a syllabus and I've got lesson planning done a lot of times, but you still have to do research and prepare yourself psychologically and intellectually, and you know, keep the flow going, the chat going. One thing that kind of has got a little bit irritating with online teaching, which I don't like online teaching at all, man. I really dislike it. I always considered the internet and social media and stuff like that to be a hobby type thing where you interact with people for fun on topics of shared interest. And so now they've switched it all over to trying to make it the way we do our careers, you know, and our livelihood. And when if they force me into that, like being home all the time and just teaching from my computer and shit, fuck, it's not good for my health, man. I end up smoking way more than I should, you know. I was down to like 2 or 3 cigarettes a day when I was working. Now I'm stuck at home all the day. I'm up to like a half a pack to a pack a day now, which is not good. But yeah, so we're supposed to start back to regular classes next week, but they're already making sounds like maybe that will get canceled. And so China has just been in total fucking lockdown, man, for 3 months now. 3 months, well, 2 years really. 2 years is how long we've been in lockdown. But we were able to get out for about 8 months. Yeah, man, freedom is the way to go, brother. let's have a look at what you're talking about here. Um, so the USS Liberty, I can't even read that. Um, let me see if I can read it. I can't even read that. Yeah, it says the USS Liberty were attacked by Israel, and Israel claims they thought it was an Egyptian ship. Almost started World War III back in June 8th, 1967. Your father never told you about this? He might have talked about it. I don't think so, though. By the time I was born, please hit the thumbs up, Jeff. Make sure you do that so we can keep the transmission snappy and happy and all that horse shit. Um, my pops didn't like to talk about the Navy much, honestly. If I pushed him for stuff or if something came out in the news and he, if it came across, you know, my mind and I said something to him about it, he told me a few stories. There were a few times when he got heated about the military and stuff. He did a lot of time in the military, about 21 years of service from like 1942 to 1963, I guess. So he probably was already out at that point. And in the end, obviously he retired with all kinds of rank and stuff, but he never got any money. Like, he never got any retirement or benefits, and for some reason he didn't want any of it. Something must have happened while he was in that made him totally turn his back on the Navy after 21 years of service, and he went into the private sector. I think he actually started his business before he even got out. But he made all of his children swear they would never join any services or any branches of the government. So a lot happened during the time he was in that jaded him to that command structure and to what they were doing and the amount they lie. Like, one of his biggest things, like he attained pretty high rank and he was in some pretty top secret programs, you know. One that I like to quote is, he was on the very first task force. I think I've told you this already. So Task Force 1. But he became disenchanted mostly because they turn their back on you once they're done with you. And like, look at a guy like Mr. T and Mr. Potato Head right now, who's at the top of the echelon. He was a 5-time draft dodger. The guy that's in office right now, the office of HNIC. He was a 5-time draft dodger, and that's the kind of guy that gets elevated in that system of corruption. Whereas my pops, he was a long-time military man that served, and you know, the ship he was on, battleship, saw more active combat than any other ship in the Navy, in the history of the Navy. So you could probably figure out, if you know your Navy history, you could figure out which ship he was on. But yeah, I showed you some pictures. I think I was going to upload some stuff to Buy Me a Coffee, but Thursdays and Fridays, man, I can't even get a moment to go live. I like to get between classes. I try to get a little downtime to breathe and relax, and, you know, cook and clean and all that other stuff that's connected with daily living. Yeah, this is exactly right here, Jeff. Yeah, I agree with you, man. He was his generation, like they call it, was the greatest generation. And for some reason, I never saw that as a kid, But now that I'm older and he's been gone for a long time, um, I lost him. He passed away when I was only 20. So I didn't get to hang out with him as much as I would like to have. But a lot of people didn't get to hang out with their dad at all, you know? Um, so it's a bummer. And but I feel fortunate that I got to that I was born from one of the people of the greatest generation. You know, we're talking he was already old. They everyone at school always thought he was my grandpa. And I'm like, nah, bro, that's my dad. You know, so I was one of his youngest children, probably his favorite, one of his favorites. But yeah, there's something to that. For some reason, they really were the greatest generation, and everything's just kind of spiraled into decadence since then. Yeah, he was 50 when I was born. That's a fact. So yeah, he was already, you know, they already thought he was an old man, but now I'm 50 and I don't feel like that much of an old man. And I remember when my pops was 50, he actually probably looked better than me. He had a big beer belly and he didn't even drink beer, but he let the gut, you know, swell up a bit. He was a big dude, man. 6 foot, 6'2", maybe. I think he was 6'1", 6'1" plus. So, you know, a 6 footer. All of his sons were six. I'm the only one that I'm only 5'10", but all my brothers were 6 foot, 6 plus. So they were all, you know, 6 foot, 6'2", weighing in at 200 and 220 pounds. And I came along and I was the runt of the litter. And so at some points I was always a little suspicious that maybe I was actually the son of the Jewish guy down the street. But no, I trust my mother. And I visually, like face and nose and like facial features and even physically, I am the spitting image of my father. Like I look just like my dad looked in his 30s. Yeah, there's real truth in that, man. There's real truth in that. What you said right here, that hard times create strong men, and strong men create good times, and good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. That's exactly how it goes. Like the way I learned it is that the first generation usually serves in military affairs, the second generation should serve in business affairs, and the third generation endeavors in arts and literature. And then the artists the cycle will repeat. It's a 3 generation cycle. So my dad was military, and then his first set of sons all took over the businesses that he started, and were all business minded. And then my generation, like me and my brother, um, we just we just benefited from everything they had already worked to create. But the good thing about it was, um, my dad didn't let us slack off, and he never gave like me and my brother, like, I mean, buy us things, obviously clothes and surfboards and shit like that, bicycles or whatever, but he never let us think that life was easy, and he never just like gave us things, and always encouraged us to work hard. We got a Navy, we were raised by a Navy man with Navy indoctrination, right, from day one. So every morning it was up out of the rack, you know, at 6 a.m. at the latest. If you slept until 6, you were wasting time, you know, out of the rack, flake down the hose, make sure, you know, the first thing out of your bed, make your bed, keep those sheets tight enough to bounce a quarter off of. Um, 3 minute showers, no longer than 2 minute telephone calls, you know, no TV time really, hit the books, you know, always crack those books. You know, if you got, his idea was always, if you got free time, then that there's no such thing as free time. Free time is practice time, you know, practice your writing, practice your kung fu. He let us, but at the same time, he gave us free reign to choose to study whatever we wanted. You know, he never had any freedom in his life, you know, 20 plus years of military service, but he provided us with the absolute ability to have, total freedom of choice and freedom of thought. And because that's what they fought and died for. They fought and died to preserve our rights, that we could have freedom of religion and freedom of speech and freedom from harassment by government and leftist progressivists and all that shit. Yeah, hurry up and wait. So I think that's probably some of those are the main reasons that he didn't want us to join, because it ends up being such a big waste of time. And he figured all that out. And he's like, I already did the military service for the family. None of you guys need to do it. Stay in the private sector, endeavor yourself in business if you want. If not, just endeavor yourself in the arts. And so I think that's a rare opportunity that not a lot of people get. So I had basically and I did some ROTC, and I actually did some reserves Army, but it was after he passed away, and he'd be rolling over in his grave. So don't tell him, don't let him know. But he knows that he raised a bunch of patriots. My other brother, an older brother, he ended up joining the Navy and doing 8 years. And then my brother, the one only a couple of years older than me that I grew up with, he admired my dad's Navy career so much that he did all of the research into it. So like when you mentioned the USS Liberty, that's definitely something my other brother would know about, because he did a ton of research into it, and he knew all of the seaman talk, he salty dog. And then I had another brother that ended up doing Marine Corps service, was a frogman. And I'm kind of the only one that escaped like being entrapped in that system. But it was due to my father making me swear that I wouldn't sacrifice my life that way. I'd love to go into politics though, because I think I know some of the behind the scenes bullshit. And I think I'm fairly intelligent enough that I could figure shit out. And I think the main thing that someone in political office needs to have is a community minded heart, and to be community centered, and to listen to their constituents. But it's deviated so far from that it would be really hard to survive and try to uphold like human dignity and the principles of the Constitution. It's really deviated from that. But I appreciate your support, and I actually think that it would be a good thing. But I don't know. It's tough now that I've been abroad for so long. Like they have a hard time trusting anybody that's been in China for 20 years, and yeah. But my intentions were always pure. The only reason I came over here is because I had a desire and a passion to research certain fields of inquiry into esoteric Taoism. And I never became politically minded until I hit about 40 years old. And so once I realized that I was in a nation where you can't participate in any democratic process, and that it's not a constitutional republic, it's a dictatorship, then it really made me yearn. As soon as I had children, that's really when I thought, wow, you need to be involved in the decision-making process in your community. I mean, up until I hit 40, I was just a kid myself. So my daughter's 15 now. So, I was 33 when I had my first child. And Socrates actually says that that's when it starts to happen. That's when the mind of a human being starts to wake up to community-centered and political affairs. But I certainly appreciate your vote of confidence. I think that I mean, once you hit, like, I'm 48 now, once you hit close to 50, like, your mind isn't as quick or as sharp as it was, but you have a better foundation, I think, in wise decision making sometimes. Hey, look, Simon's out there in Happy Land. Welcome to the chat, Simon. Good to see you, man. We're talking politics. I like how you've got that 33 under there. You know, lots of things associated with 33. Interesting too, that coincidence that I had my first baby at 33. I don't know if my first baby, she's a 15-year-old woman now. Her birthday's coming up next couple of weeks. But yeah, she blossomed into a full-fledged woman like nearly overnight. And I thought, oh my God, nerve-wracking horse shit right there. Yeah, so that's, I think, main. Yeah, that's right, Simon. We're broadcasting from the future. Yeah, so let's do what do they call that? A channel update. When you have to blog the channel and stuff, you have to say, okay, like Dark Journalist does. I remind you, you're listening to the Dark Journalist, and this evening we're going deep into the works of Steiner and Blavatsky. We're going to have Gigi Young on later, and she's going to smile and laugh. She might even blow you a kiss. And she's going to vilify the Greys because she's got a real fucking bone to pick with the Three Amigos. And then later on, maybe Fitzgerald will join us, and possibly J.P. Farrell. Yeah, anybody for a J.P. Farrell? And he's going to talk about the MK Ultra Freemasonic Disneyland space Nazis and the bases that they built on the dark side of the moon back in the 1960s. So we're going deep tonight. Yeah, Gigi's coming by, man. She's in the green room right now putting on her makeup. Yeah, man, it scares the fucking dog shit out of me, man. And I'm in a country where I can't even carry a pistol, you know, to ward off those little cocksuckers and bash them in the teeth with it if they try to mess with my little girl. But I don't need a pistol, man. My dad told me when I was a kid, like, you know, Los Angeles County, it was gangster this and gangster that, and then I played my own shit. It went something like this. Woke up quick at about noon. Just thought that I had to be in Compton soon. My pops wasn't a big guy for carrying guns. He kept a gun in his desk at work, a revolver, and he always prayed that he didn't have to use it, you know. And he's the type of guy that would never, he's the type of guy that would get held like at gunpoint and could easily, you know, pull his pistol and shoot the guy, but he'd end up, you know, pulling a couple of $100 out of his pocket or something and saying, "Here you go, man. Don't pull the fucking trigger. You know, get out of here." You know, or end up trying to sell him a car or something. You know, my dad was his level of generosity and the size of his heart was just so amazing. He was always godlike in my eyes as a kid, but that's the kind of guy he was. You know, even if he got held at gunpoint, robbed, he would just give the guy a couple of $100, and knowing full well that he's got his own revolver in his briefcase or in his desk, and wouldn't even pull and shoot him. You know. Yeah, that's because you Irish can't be trusted with guns, man. You guys are tippling at the whiskey a little too much. And the only people that should have guns in Ireland are the bodyguards that defend the royal family when they come over to fucking tell you guys how the cow eats the cabbage. And let them eat arse biscuits is what the Queen has to say to you guys. If you guys can't fight a revolution to break yourself away from the teat of the United Kingdom, then you certainly don't deserve to have a pistol. I'm fucking with you, Simon. There were romantic visions in my childhood of joining the IRA and, you know, sailing home to Ireland to fight for the motherland. But yeah, that's right. And they try to take away everyone's guns, man. That same royal family, those vampires that, oh God, I got to watch my mouth on here. I forget this is live television. You guys show up and I just want to have a casual conversation like it's a bunch of old timers sitting around drinking whiskey and shooting the shit. But that's not the way it works anymore. Yeah. Yeah, so Gigi will be on later, guys. Stick around. She'll be here. But once she gets her makeup on in the green room, she's gonna put on a micro mini skirt, a pair of 6-inch stiletto heels, come out here and bat her eyes at you. You guys will be going bananas, simping like a chimp, right? Yeah. Do you know Gigi, Simon? You should go check her out. Say Frank Monday sent me over here to sub your channel. He was singing your praises. He says that you're a highly achieved clairvoyant, and you got the eighth sphere figured out. You know more about the eighth sphere than Steiner did. Let's see what Jeff's got to say here. I can't read that. What does that say? Beto O'Rourke is coming for all Texan guns. If he wins, governor says goodbye to Texas. You know, the interesting news that came out yesterday, Monsieur Tiedrick, maybe today for you, was that that covert attack on Kavanaugh, right? So you see the way the leftists play, right? And the conservatives, Christians, and the people that, you know, try to hope and pray for better times and work their asses off, you know, the 10% doing 90% of the work. They're so goddamn busy, you know, working to keep the country alive and everything from crashing. They don't have the kind of free time that these far left people do, you know, that can just sit around and play video games and then get out in their black masks and really cause some trouble, you know, burn down the city and shit. Free time is the devil's time, right? Like my pops always said, free time is practice time. There is no free time. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear it, man. You got to fight like tooth and nail to maintain your rights. Like Benjamin Franklin said, once they pinned the Declaration of Independence, it's a republic if you can keep it. And, you know, generation after generation, you got to fight like tooth and nail, fight like an old wet hen to keep it free. See, Ireland is still run by England as they rule us by taking away our language. Ireland is the corporation. Ire is the proper name. My mom is an O'Rourke, so I'm half O'Rourke, and my dad's a Callaghan. Callaghan. Yeah, that's interesting. I would be very curious to find out my Irish roots, because all of our names are German, but my mother's side of the family, her mother and her mother's father, claim that that they were all Appalachian Irish descendants, but they don't let you track it anymore. Like you could get one of those genealogy tracking things, but during the 1800s, they destroyed all of the documentation and made everybody orphans. You probably know about the orphan trains. And the reason they did that is they didn't want any of the New World people being able to trace their roots back to old Europe and stuff like that. Because, you know, they say strike through diversity, but actually what they try to create is just everybody in one homogeneity where their history and their family records are all destroyed so that you just become a ward of the state. It's a silent G in Callahan. Callahan. Yeah. Yeah, that's a fact. You know, they say there's something like 330 million people in the U.S. I'd say it's probably getting closer to 350 million with the way the Chinese immigrate over there. I know that hundreds of thousands a year escape China and immigrate into the U.S. through Mexico. Hundreds of thousands, you know, thousands and thousands per day just walk across the border and become Americans. But they're just bringing their system of Chinese totalitarianism with them and setting up shop. shop. In fact, they call Southern California Little China now. You know, they've always had their little Chinas out there, Chinatowns and stuff. But yeah, they're setting up shop. They're trying to displace the Caucasian Americans, and the government supports them in it. You know, you can print money here in China and then take it to the U.S. if you're a bigwig dude, and buy tens of thousands of acres of U.S. Wildlife preserves and farmland, and all of that's getting sold to the Chinese. And it's got nothing to do with money, because if it was money, I mean, the U.S. prints its own money. 30 trillion in debt now, supposedly, right? And the Chinese, they just print their own money. Money's an illusion. It's not even paper anymore. It's just a number on a computer. But during the census records of a decade ago, about 80 million claim Irish descent, and about 150 million claim German descent. So the U.S. was, 10 years ago, it was 2/3 Germanic descent and 1/3 Irish descent. Or if you account for 2/3 of the U.S. populace, with very few Englishmen. The English got kicked out at the end of the 18th century. Okay, I can't stay on here long, Jeff, because I got to get ready for classes, man. But I will be here for a little while. And thanks for tuning in. Good to see you, Jeff. I will definitely go have a look at buymeacoffee.com. Thank you for that, man. I appreciate that. That really puts the lead in my pencil. Yeah, I agree with you, Simon. It is stranger than fiction, man. All the horse shit we've been led to believe.
Would enjoy it. Ibanez flips over an upended chair and sits down, telling the Lord that she's very particular who she parties with. The Red Lord says that the Jubilee is ended in Alagada and across the realms of men and madness both. He asks her what she is, as she looks human, but he's seen double. Ibanez grins at him lasciviously and says that she's human, and asks about him, where it counts. The Red Lord laughs again and says that he has his weaknesses: wine, women, song, and then asks if she's been to the Odeon. He had tickets, but then he also had standards. Ibanez laughs as well, and asks if those standards extend to his cellar, as she wouldn't mind a drink, assuming that it's wine and not blood. The Red Lord staggers to his invisible feet and responds that it's wine, but that doesn't mean it isn't also blood.
Yeah, that's interesting about Jordan Maxwell. I had never actually even heard of him. And he endeavors to research the exact same fields that I research. And it wasn't until recently, when he passed away, that I even heard who he was. And someone mentioned him, and I'm like, and they thought he was a big deal, and they were doing he just died last month or something, right? Or a couple of months ago. And so they were researching him, and I remembered I have heard his voice in clips and stuff, but he had never been brought to my attention for any reason. And then I did a peripheral investigation into who he was, and I thought that it was quite interesting that me and him have very similar views, and everything I heard him say were things that I had heard echoed from my father's and grandfather's generation. So the truth is out there, but it's dying off, man. The greatest generation, they're all just about gone now. And the only ones who really survived that were all the evildoers. All the good guys sacrificed themselves for freedom and liberty, and all the evil guys who sat back and, sent them into useless wars. Their families are the ones that are in control of all the money and power and stuff now. It's like they savaged the earth and sent all of our brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and grandparents to murder each other and plow the fields and stuff. And now they've amassed all that wealth and power, and now they've turned it all around and say, hey, now you plebes can't do anything. You know, you can't utilize the land, you can't utilize the resources, you can't fuel your car. You know, we're going to starve you out. It's like, wait a goddamn minute. You know, it's our bloodlines, our families that did all of the work and built this world. It's the greatest generation. It's our birthright. And now now that they've got the robots and they've trained up a whole new generation of enforcers that run around with badges and harmonizers, they think they're going to tell us how the cow eats the cabbage. I think it's horse shit. I think we need to do some house cleansing. Yeah, so the background music is...
She asks where he found enough blood, and he smirks, saying that surely she already has the answer, causing her to think of the silent streets outside. She responds,
"This is SCP 6500, Inevitable, and it's part 6 by the Exploring series. It's had 200,000 views, and it dropped October 25th, 2021. I think this guy does a good job reading stories. His pronunciation isn't always spot on, but he does a pretty good job.
That she doesn't suppose he has anything which started out life on a vine. He shrugs and says he runs an equitable establishment, so there's sure to be weaker spirits in stock for weaker spirits like hers. She finds a bottle of Chateau Lafite 1787 behind the bar and says that he wasn't joking. She sits back down and rips the top off the bottle, asking if they're going to toast to his health. The Red Lord glares at her and says that she wants something, whoever she is, and he's not the giving sort. He takes, and he takes that which is not offered most of all. He asks what she wants from him and what she fears to lose. She responds honestly that she wants his key before taking a swig, relieved to find that the bottle contained red wine. She tells him that if he gives her that, he can take whatever he wants, after he drinks. The Red Lord sneers back at her and says that they are going to adore her, and she will not enjoy it, before downing his flagon. The other voice then speaks, saying that the Red Lord has sunk to the occasion magnificently. The Lord staggers to his feet again and says that the bill has come due at last, and that's his cue to leave. He stood and began stumbling away as the voice says that he's always the last to quit the party. The Red Lord gasps out that it's his nature, before his orifices run black, and he falls forward to the floor. The voice yawns that he keeps his key in the till, and that drunks are so predictable. Ibanez says that it could have told her that from the start, to save her a bit of tension. It responds that there was nothing to it. Slaughter into wine, and back again. Basic as alchemy gets. She takes a red rusted key from the register and departs.
So you want EVs, you have come to the right place. Is that Tom Brady? Yeah. Comes in.
In Korbanik, Okori's mind boggled as she watched the scene around her, as an array of impossible vessels swarmed in the area, ranging from sleek designs of colorful metal kept aloft by repulsors to unfathomably vast capital ships, like something out of Star Wars. Dichotomy offered two soaring skylines, one stretching towards the trio of moons, and the other hanging over the wastes like a melted cake. The upper hull was orange, and the lower hull was blue, wrapped around a central cavity glowing with radiated white, although the light was dying due to the king. There was a constant musical tone, like the shattering of wine glasses, and every science fiction laser sound effect she'd ever heard, plus some new ones, rang out as the initiative tried desperately to remove the hanged king's shroud. Meanwhile, the White Lord was still approaching along the octopus, and they were out of room. She was about to suggest levitating them across the gap when suddenly a polished chrome carrier arrived at the tentacle's tip, dropping a long landing ramp down. A lone woman in simple military dress strode out, and for a horrible moment, Akori thought she was going to meet her mother. The woman was too tall, her eyes too dark, and her expression too displeased for that to be the case, though. She stuck out a hand, and Okori shook it, with the woman declaring that this is her fault. Okori nods and says that
Simon, give me a yo if you can still hear me. I don't know if my feed broke up or not. It looks like there's all kinds of problems now that I've got people actually watching. It's interesting to me that I was able to stream for an hour perfectly. The connection was perfect. Everything was super clear when nobody was watching. But then as soon as a couple of you guys tune in, bam, they start throttling the transmission. And then Jeff's comment, like right there, yeah, no problem, Jeff. I see you out there, Jeff. So give me a yo if you can still hear me. Good, that's cool. Thanks, Simon. And it looks like it's still responding fairly good. I hear you, brother. Let me respond to Jeff real quick. Watch out for gators. Jeff's going to take his dog out for a walk one day, and a gator is going to grab his little dog for a snack, for an appetizer. So you got to watch out for that. Simon, you don't actually have to download StreamYard. All you have to do is to join the chat. All you have to do is copy this link, and you can jump right in, man. It's a web-based thing. It doesn't require any, like today I'm using Restream. I'm not using StreamYard. But invite up to 6 guests for free. Need a link, refresh it. Let me see if cancel. Guests can add channels to the stream. So you don't even actually have to download anything. You just click on that link, man. Let me see if I missed anything in the chat. If you do decide to call in, though, let me know. I'll check because I flip between screens, and I might not see you at first. So if you do decide to call in, let me know. Restream Studio. I don't know if that link showed up correctly or not, but yeah, you could call in anytime, man. I'm always open to have people on here to chat. Like I said, I can't guarantee how long or how strong the stream will be, but folks start talking like they want to call in. I want to go wash my face, brush my hair and teeth, and put on a shirt. Refine my presentation a little. Like I said, Gigi's going to be on the show later. She doesn't know that yet. I haven't invited her. I doubt she would come. I know she would come, but she probably wouldn't come on the show. Nobody wants to let me interview them, but I'd love to interview Simon. Yeah, so fire away, man. If you wanna join in. In fact, if we have problems, I'll reboot the whole stream and we can try again on StreamYard. Sometimes StreamYard works better. Sometimes Restream works better. It just depends. It looks like we lost it though, man.
to know how scientific their spaceships are, but if they're even a little bit magic, they're only flying because of her. The woman suddenly smiles, says that that's a hell of a thing to take credit for. The Foundation kills magic.
What's up, man? How are you?
Suddenly says that that's a hell of a thing to take credit for.
Wait, hold on. Hold on a sec, man. I can't even hear you. Let me plug in my headset. Hold on. Hold on a second. I can't even hear you. Let me plug in my headset. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? I can't hear you, man. Can you hear me? No? I don't think this motherfucker's working. Hello? Hey guys, look, it's Simon. Simon, can you hear me? I can't hear shit, man. No volume. What's up with the volume? Okay, it's. Hey guys, look, it's Simon. Simon, can you hear me? I can hear myself. I can't hear shit, man. I can't hear you, man. No. Let me try. No volume. You got. I can hear myself. You've got no volume coming in on your side, man. I don't know why. It says your connection is really poor. You've got no volume coming in on your side, man. I don't know why. It says your connection is really poor. Yeah, there's no volume on your side, man. 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 Yeah, I don't know why that happened. I can hear myself fine. Yeah, no idea what was up with that. Try again, man. Give it another go. Maybe they're fucking playing games with us. Must be my 1+5 Chinese phone. Might be. Might be. Yeah, I hear that. That's funny, huh? Still no volume, man. Still nothing. See, I've got your volume adjustment here. It says I can mute you, I can unmute you, but you're not showing any reception at all. Do you have a headset? I've added you to the chat now. I can see you. You're a handsome fella. Good to see an Irishman out there in Happy Land from Kilkenny. Still nothing on the volume though, man. But your connection is good this time. Network connection says a 10 out of 10. Edit name, remove guest. No. It's on your end, man. There's no volume coming in on your end. It must be the microphone on your phone, or maybe it's the I don't know. All this shit is touch and go, you know what I'm saying? It was fun to see you nonetheless, though. Fun to see nonetheless. Yeah, when you figure that shit out, man, definitely. We'll get up and shoot the shit every day. A couple times a week anyway, if you want to. Not that many people like to call in. I've had Anthony on the show a couple times. Owen tried to call in a couple times. But I've noticed that when people are trying to do it on their phone, there's always some trouble with that. Don't know what it is, but I guess, yeah, it probably has to do with the backwards compatibility with phones and stuff.
D&D's at back slow as molasses, and now they're supposed to be thankful. She backs back up the ramp and says that the impenetrable thinks she might be useful, referring to the hostile reality bender that works with the three moons. It's said that they should dump her in dichotomy if she somehow found her way here. She's not sure if she wants to take the risk, however. Okori says that they risked a lot to get here, and they can help. But the woman laughs and says, more like sacrificed, as she may have walked in on her own 2 feet, but her friend clearly came feet first. Okori looks at her father, who looks back with an expression of calm resignation. The woman then raises an arm as the White Lord began saying that his work here is done. The woman then drops her arm, and a battery of guns pelts the White Lord, the mask and empty robe dropping off the tentacle like a stone and feather. The woman tells them to get on board, and they'll see if she's worth the ammo. Ibanez had now passed through the Wastrel's Gate into the phlegmatic quarter, the final stretch of the city before the palace. Here the streets were clean and silent, and the layout was simple and direct. Ibanez thought it too direct, with every line seeming to terminate before its time, every angle too acute, and she felt a panic attack coming on as she made her way towards the stronghold on the horizon. The Alagadans in this quarter walked through the streets in soundless procession, marching in neat rows with their heads bowed.
Maybe Simon could figure out a way to call in. He tried to call in. I don't know if you saw that or not, Jeff. But it made me a little self-conscious. I wanted to get over there and brush my teeth. Fuck, you got guests coming over. You need to get out the good whiskey and put on a shirt. I haven't had a guest over in 22 years. Wouldn't know how to behave with company in the house. Oh, sad. Yeah, you guys, let me know what you want to rap about.
Grace muses in her head that it remembers the parade, the joy in the eyes of the assembled throng, their hopeful faces exposed to the heavens, the madness in their twisted smiles, the march of their naked feet upon the corpses of their betters. Ibanez remarks that it sounds like a real Mardi Gras, but the voice continues, saying that they fell on it like a pack of ravening animals. They were bred to docility, but spurred to violence by fears and hatreds which could not subside but only fester and grow. They ground it to dust against the cobbles it had laid,
yeah, if we got
laid in the knowledge that it would one day be ground against them. Ibanez says that's a little weird,
run a razor over
but the voice replies that she has never ruled a city. She has never known what it is to own the lives of men.
Should I put on a tie?
To warp their minds, to boil away their pretenses and accretions and their hollow projections of what they want to be until the rotten core of what they truly, irrevocably are is all that remains.
Left over right.
In the knowledge that it won't be enough.
Make a
that
left
they will
turn,
not be able to handle the revelation of their self.
Back through
that they will
Back out
rise
the
up in
hole.
anger and tear you down. She has
Make a
never
right
given
turn.
anyone a gift such as that, and she has never
No, I
known
fucked
true
that up.
love.
No, I got it right.
Ibanez could see
And
the
then-
final gate ahead of her, already open, and says that these people
Free
killed it
throw.
because it was horrible, and it feels nostalgic about that. It responds that when you have lived as long as it has, so long,
That's a
and
double
so
Windsor
fully,
there.
you cultivate more sensitive
I got the
tastes.
tie and the hat ready.
There's nothing sweeter
So,
in all the world
I'm
than
ready.
knowing you have laid the groundwork for a cruel,
I'm ready for you now,
vicious,
Simon.
bloody revenge on the ones you have
I'm
led to
ready now,
wrong you.
Simon.
It smiled as they dashed its faceless visage against the stones and tread its innards through the streets of Aligata that was, because it could
That's
already
fucking
taste
horrifying.
their
Now, if I did it
viscera in
right,
its
it
mouth,
should pop right out.
hear
Yeah,
their
I
cries
did
for
right.
mercy in its ears, feel the rising warmth in its
It
bosom
hasn't
as
been
it
that
pronounced them doomed and damned. It has aged its anticipation to a fine vintage, and today it will drink deeply of the
Yeah, he's
sorrow
trying to
of
get
its
he's on a
friends.
laptop. I better put the tie back on.
Ibanez then
Let's see
walks
if this
through the
is gonna work.
tyrant's gate and into the shadows of the hanged.
What do you think, Simon? I still don't see any volume coming from your side.
Can you hear
man.
me?
Oh, I can hear you now. Wow.
I have the big.
Let's check feedback levels. How the hell are you, man?
Yeah, I can hear myself.
Okay. Can you hear? And you can hear me? Good.
I sound really Irish. Jesus.
How the nice. And there's. We'll have to make sure that Jeff keeps us in the know if we get any feedback.
There's a really bad feedback. Let me.
Is there? You might want if it gets too bad, you can use headphones.
How are you, Jeff? I hope you keep well.
All right, I'll put on my best Irish accent. How the hell are you, Simon?
I'm good. I'm good. I'll turn the light on to see if you can see me a bit better.
Yeah. All right, in the house.
You kind of only hear your accent when you hear yourself back, don't you?
Yeah. Which part of the Emerald Isle are you hailing in from today, Simon?
North County Dublin.
Oh wow, really? Old
Very-
Dublin town. This is very exciting. I've been listening to The Rocky Road to Dublin by the Irish Rovers since I was 15.
Yeah, I've seen your singing. You can probably sing better than me because I don't know really any Irish. Can you hear the feedback?
No, it sounds fine to me. I've got perfect volume.
Like, really distracting. I can just hear myself.
Okay, well, just mute your window if you've got your live window open.
This is my. Then maybe I'll put the headphones in. So this is my sister's. Live. All right. I'm just chatting to some crazy fella.
Who's that? Is that the wife for the kids or?
No, it's my mum. Say
it's-
Maria. Right.
Hi, Mom.
She's No, that's my mum. Yeah. She had a
Hi there,
brain
Mum.
tumor taken out a year ago, so she's doing really well.
Okay, good. I'm in the
Fighting
same
strong.
situation. I had mine taken out 2 years ago, so
Really?
I'm right there with you, Mom. Yeah.
Okay.
I heard that, Mom. I heard that they've banned the wearing of
Are
the
you
green.
taking the piss, or did you really have a brain tumor taken
No, I
out?
had an aneurysm.
Oh.
And I had it clipped. And it was just about 2 years ago now.
Oh, okay. Very terrible.
Yeah, similar. I think it's similar. I'm not sure. I don't know that much about it. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, he's grand. So he's grand. So he'll be making a full recovery. No problem. Fine.
love to you, Mom. Lots of love. Would,
But
would your mom? Would your mom
ah,
like to hear me? Would your mom like to hear me sing in a fake Irish accent?
she knows she can't. She was quite affected by the operation, so she's not really with it.
Yeah, it takes time. I can imagine.
She's gone now. She's gone out for a smoke. So.
Yeah, good
Hold
for
on,
her.
I'll put the headphones on if I don't.
Her name's Maria. Is that right?
Yeah, Maria, she's the O'Rourke in the family, so yeah, that's much better.
Is it? All right.
But no, I can still hear myself. It's annoying. I don't know how to sort this. When you can hear yourself, there's a really big delay, and it's so distracting.
If you've got a YouTube window open, then you should mute it.
Okay.
Yeah, time for a JP Farrell. I hear you. Oh, Patty dear, did you hear the news that's going round? The shamrock is by law forbid to grow on Irish ground. St. Paddy's Day no more we'll keep, his colours can't be seen, for they're hanging men and women for the wearing of the green. For the wearing of the green, for the wearing of the green. They're hanging men and women for the wearing of the green.
I only have maybe.
I'll let you figure that out.
I've just figured it out, so that's brilliant.
You got it? All right, good.
Yeah. Thank
yes.
God.
Tell me a little bit about the situation there in Ireland. How is everything? I mean, are they flooding your town with immigrants from Arabic countries and
from
Africa?
Ukraine? Well, they've kind of been doing that for the past 20 years. We on the street here, we used to have barbecues once a year, and it kind of started with the influx of a lot of Polish people. And I've nothing against Polish people. I worked with them in the airport for 7 years, and they're wonderful people. But there was about 270,000 Polish people came here for sort of cheap labor, as I sort of see it. And so about 15, 20 years ago, the streets stopped having these barbecues, and then no one really talked to each other anymore, and something sort of division in society kind of crept into Ireland, if that makes any sense. Just like mass immigration and the whole Celtic Tiger and the cheap labour, basically, Because I worked in Dublin Airport for 7 years, and there's this tradition. The Aer Lingus is was the original Irish airline, the only airline that you used to be able to fly with. And the lads that worked with Aer Lingus from the 90s, the baggage handlers that I worked along with were earning about 80 grand, 70, 80 grand a year. Because they didn't they didn't negotiate on their contracts. They kept their contracts for the past 20 odd years. And so ever since then, there's been an erosion of the wages. So the slave wage, as I call it, is the 20 grand or the 20,000 euro roughly wage. And that's kind of roughly what the kind of lower paid worker is in Dublin Airport, which is why the whole airport's kind of fallen to bits now, because no one's willing to work there,
Yeah, that's kind of the whole point of this situation that they've spurred on, right? It's about phasing out the workers who have already been tenured and already gotten enough raises to support themselves, and then replace them with these lower end guys that they're just, displacing them from their native homes as well.
Yeah, like people from Poland or wherever are on much lower wages, so they come to Ireland and then they get much more money, but it's a lot less money than the traditional Aer Lingus worker, and then that just gets eroded. They can't compete, and then so I don't know, companies like Ryanair, they really lowered the whole standard of wages and just kind of like, you know, and all the unions are kind of corrupted and they don't really stand up for the individual, you know. I tried to unionize the company I worked for, and the SIP2 is the union, and they never once came into the airport to actually talk to any of the staff and actually get people onto the union. They just kind of like, oh yeah, come down for meetings, but they didn't really care about actually unionizing the company that I worked for. So they're, you know, all the unions are playing along to solve COVID malarkey as well. So
yeah, it's kind of the whole drive of the whole thing is like it's really just been an attack at community, an attack on the middle class, deplatforming conservative voices. Like even this type of topic that we're talking about right now is verboten enough to get you shut down because they just don't want the truth being heard on any level. Yeah. And they're moving about droves of people in order to facilitate this just greater enslavement, and it's global, you know. It's a global endeavor. They do it here in China with impunity. You know, they can just basically do whatever they want because they have a totalitarian regime, and they have for 5,000 years, whatever.
How are you enjoying a lockdown? Because I haven't spoken to you in a bit of a while, in a few weeks or a week or so. Or
yeah, go ahead.
You're still locked down hard, is it? Like there's no signs of it letting up, is there?
No. Well, they try to tease you out of your hole a little bit, and they say, "Oh, we're gonna lighten things up for the next couple of weeks or whatever." And then like they said that last week. We've been like 2 months now here in Beijing, and then so a couple of days ago they said they were gonna lighten everything up and we were gonna get back to work on the 13th. But now they're already talking like that might not happen, and we might go into a hard, like Shanghai style lockdown for all of summer, basically.
Jesus. So
yes, it's fucking horseshit.
Summer indoors, then, is it? Looks like.
Which we would probably do anyway, because it's really hot outside, But no, the main thing is that they're cutting off our ability to fellowship with other people and our ability to even take a vacation or whatever, or like for a little over a month it was so bad that we couldn't even leave our apartment complex, and then they tried to tell everybody to literally stay indoors and not even go into the garden area to get exercise, and it's like, you guys are so full of fucking shit with this,
so much. It's the fear is the massive thing, and for me, my folks have been I haven't been able to take them away from watching TV and listening to the radio. And for me, I learned recently the big thing was I was pushing my truth on people. And for me, I learned simply evil is just wanting to control other people's thoughts, even if you think your thoughts are truthful. If you push your thoughts on anybody else, just like you say to a kid, do this, the kid will just instinctively just say, I'm not doing that. Like, I'll do my own sort of thing. And I kind of learned the hard way. So, everyone around me is triple V'd, quadruple V'd.
Jesus.
My whole family, my wife even. I told my wife 2 years ago, if you get vaccinated, we're finished. But she didn't believe me. And but the relationship is still on rocky terms, because you can only be with someone when they don't believe you and they think you're a lunatic for so long until they, So that's why I'm back home in Skerries for the time being. But I'm enjoying looking after my mum and getting her sort of like, getting her out to the shops and getting her brain activated again after her, because the elderly have been really kind of psychologically damaged in my viewpoint, and it's hard. It's hard to.
Also those who already had, like you mentioned, the elderly. Yeah, that's especially important. But also those who had any pre-existing like mental health challenges, or folks that already had, like maybe any kind of physical challenges or health challenges. It really
Yeah, speaking of mental health, I spent 2 months in St. James's psychiatric hospital with a manic bipolar breakdown, and I had the strangest experience 2 years ago. Like it just had this sort of like I was pushing my truth so much on people. It sort of the karma came back. Um, sorry, sorry, Jeff, I've no whiskey on me, but I'll just pretend to have one. But I was pushing my truth and my and my beliefs on people so much. Everyone just thought I was like kind of like pure evil in a way, even though I was just thought I was in bliss of everything, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. It does.
And well, at the time I was smoking a lot of weed, and I was out of work, and I was on this COVID payment, and I had no worries in the world, and I was on the carnivore diet, eating just like not eating any processed food at all, and kind of completely ignoring like money and everything, and just like living living in my own bubble basically. And I suppose just simply like pushing your own truth on anybody else it's just the wrong way to do it. You have to just plant seeds, or just show people the truth instead of telling them the truth, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah, it absolutely makes sense. I mean, the way I learned about it, through my system of Taoism and like hermetics and stuff, is that you just get the work done, and keep your mouth shut 90% of the time. Like the only time I really have an opportunity to banter or get philosophical is here online. But when it comes to like daily life, like interacting with the family and the community, I keep my mouth shut 90% of the time and just do the work. When you're doing the work, whatever work that may be, like helping your mom out, or, sweeping and mopping the floor, that's the highest level of virtue. And then like one's personal opinion, I know it's tough because we want to share that with people and be politically active and stuff. But we always have to realize there's a time and a place, and it's better to do more listening and doing. Actions speak louder than words, as they say.
Yeah. Just let me get a glass of water, because I just need to refresh the old throat.
Yeah, do your thing, man.
Yeah.
Oh. All right, guys, good fun here with Simon. He's a random call in here on the Frank Monday Show. I remind you, we're going deep into Taoist esotericism, and he's joining us from Dublin, Ireland, right, where they've banned the wearing of the green. My father loved his country and sleeps within its breast, while I that would have died for her must never so be blessed. Those tears me mother shed for me, how bitter they had been if I had proved a traitor to the wearing of the... Oh, you're back. All right, welcome back. Yeah, let's... you like this one better? This one's good. Yeah, so there he is. Let's keep this show going for another hour. I'm enjoying it.
I was about to go to bed, actually. I was feeling wrecked the whole day for some reason. And
what time is it there in Dublin?
10 o'clock. It's early enough. Just 11:15. Yeah, I've had I don't know. The reason I was smoking so much weed is because I've had tinnitus in my ear. I broke my jaw like 20 years ago. I have like a bit of I slipped a disc in my lower back, and then I have, probably from lifting bags for 7 years, I have kind of like a misalignment, and I was probably unconsciously smoking a lot of weed just, for the pain relief, and I was getting deep into meditation while smoking weed as well, which is, I'm still kind of a big believer of it, of it helping you sort of to, it kind of opens up your mind in a way to, accessing your own thoughts or whatever.
Yeah, it does. And there's, we might get a little feedback if you don't mute that. Is it good? Okay.
I'll put the headphones on.
No, it sounded good now. It was just for a second there. Yeah, so there's a hermetic philosophy on that, like that caffeine and nicotine and alcohol kind of serve for awakening your analytical side and the drive of the analyst more. And so that's why they were so promoted in the industrial cycle of humanity, because then we would focus more on like manual productivity and that type of thing. But then the reason that cannabis was so maligned for so long is because it opens you up more to your spiritual and creative side, and it can even thin the veil a little so that it's more easy for you to see elementals and contact spirits and this type of thing. All things in one.
Jeff's daily meditation is his whiskey and his wine at the end of the day. But I found weeds turned me off drink. I kind of just went completely off drink when I was on a high, because the weed gave me a heightened cell, whereas whiskey would sort of do the low. I don't know. It just makes you kind of like turn off and kind of go to sleep. Or
yeah, it did the same thing for me, and that was a huge problem for the alcohol industry and just the industries at large, is that people were going to relax and stop drinking alcohol and get more focused on their families and creativity and stuff, and kind of wake up to the lie they were being fed. And so that's why it was so stigmatized for so long, you know.
But it also kind of makes you do nothing as well, because it just gets you into the sense of, I don't give a fuck about anything, and therefore I just won't do anything at all, if as well.
Well, like I said, moderation in all things. You know, you need a good foundation.
I think that the tobacco demon is like, if you're mixing your weed with tobacco, makes you smoke too much weed. If that makes any sense. I don't know.
It could. Yeah, I can.
Mary at sea level. How are you, Mary at sea level? She's
yeah, it's good to see Mary, Miss Mary Moon, out in the chat. Good to see you. We're having a really special show today, Mary. We've got Simon tuning in from Dublin, Ireland, the occupied capital of the Ellis Isle.
It's my birthday today, and Mary's at sea level is saying that it's her son's birthday, which is
that a fact?
So coincidental. Yeah, 10th of June is my date of birth, 82. So.
Okay, so you're a Gemini.
Yeah, an airhead, as they say.
Yeah, I have a sister who's a Gemini, and it's a little bit tough for Pisces and Gemini to get along. You may know I'm a Pisces.
Oh, okay. I wasn't too
but
sure.
That's good, because that means that our conversation will be one of, we can agree to disagree on certain things, right? But we'll be looking at things from two very, very different angles, which is good. You know, we should be willing to do that. We should be willing to get point and counterpoint, right?
You seem to know a bit more about the sort of the whole alien agenda, or the extraterrestrial aspect of the side of things. Do you? Because I'm a bit of a flat earther, but I'm also open to the possibility that I'm mad into Star Trek and Star Wars, and I believe there's great messages in these programs, and I believe there's something into them. But I'm also open to the possibility that every other religion was talking about this realm being flat. But I'm also open to the possibility that it could be so big that it could also be round, if that makes any sense. Like I don't know.
That's the thing too, and I agree with you. I mean, Eric Dubay. You know Eric Dubay, right?
Yeah, I think he might be a bit of a shill, to be honest. I think there's shills among shills in the whole thing. The whole pizza model of the flat Earth is completely wrong. I'd be more of the angel particle matrix idea of this world, where the sun almost goes across the Earth like a square map, and then it comes back and goes across again, if that makes any sense. Like it's angel particle matrix. APM research is a great chance to have a look at.
I'm not familiar with it. I'll have to look into it.
Yeah,
you can tell me a little bit about it though if you want. I'm more of a how would I describe it? Seeing is believing type of guy, and so I base most of my understanding through direct experiential evidence, and
Yeah.
even if that takes place in the astral sphere, so the map is not the terrain, right? And what we've been led to believe is definitely not accurate, and
Yeah,
so I,
I'd be the same of mindset as well. Like, I'd be a little open to the whole hollow earth theory. Is fascinating to me as well. Brooke Agnew, if you ever heard of him, he does great sort of theories about the world expanding and all the continents where the Earth was much smaller uh, back in billions of years ago, and it slowly expanded. And he says the middle of it is hollow with this sun in it, and the whole theory about other beings living under the earth and there being much more to this realm than we're even can sort of imagine, if that makes any sense.
Sure, it does. And if it coincides with natural law, then it doesn't oppose the Tao. And so, from my understanding, everything should follow natural law the way, as above, so below. And if there is a natural order, and there seems to be, and if there is creative intelligence, and there does seem to be, then everything would fall in line with that in some way. And even if we can't necessarily comprehend it at the human level, then
Mm.
a growth model like the earth being young and a baby at one point and then growing and expanding, that follows natural law. So that makes sense to me.
Because a lot of the you can't really see the poles. Like a lot of the Google Earth images are all kind of blanked off, and like NASA doesn't really show everything. And NASA seems to be full of lies. To be honest, I don't have a lot of faith in faking the moon landing and all that sort of stuff. And
Yeah,
I,
never a straight answer. Kubrick was definitely involved with that one.
yeah, did you see his video where he kind of confessed to it and was telling the person about it?
Yeah, I did a while ago. Like that whole thing was kind of my dad's generation, and he raised me to know that there was a bunch of smoke and mirrors and a bunch of horse shit.
Mm.
In fact, he early on, he was on Task Force One, as I may have mentioned in the past. I don't know how long have you
No,
watched my channel, Simon?
well, ba- before
Off and on
I
a little
kind
bit.
of had my crazy periods over 2 years ago. I think that's when, or nearly 3 years ago now. That's when I first was watching you, and then I had a bit of a break, I suppose, and then I kind of refound you again
Okay, fantastic.
recently.
Wow. Well,
But
welcome back. That's cool. Yeah. So the Karens over at BoobTube have shut me down for now because I called my cigarette the wrong thing, and but yeah. So I grew up with the idea that even like like the nuclear boogeyman is one big scare that they always try to like roll out every few years. And according to my pops, my dad was on those programs. He says that they just don't pack the punch that they claim they do. And
yeah, well,
the
James True says that they don't even exist to a certain degree. It's just literally scaremongering, and
absolutely.
he looked into the 20,000 nuclear devices that they created, like these three small, and not there hasn't been one accident in the whole world, and statistically, there has to be like have one accident kind of like there has to be an accident while making these bombs or whatever, but nothing has ever happened. Like there hasn't been one. Oh, like you think that making them and sort of like something would go. I don't know. It's very, very suspicious, the whole.
Well, yeah, there are a lot of cards in the deck that they play simply just for their effect on deepening the neurosis in society. Because, or I don't know if you're familiar with Robert Anton Wilson's Prometheus Rising. Do you know of
No, no.
Dr. Bob Wilson? Anyway, Dr. Bob, he said that they play these cards in society and in the news media in order to create what he called biosurvival anxiety. And he said, as long as they heighten up your angst and your anxiety, then it reduces you to the lowest common denominator, or that of a child. And during those points, then they can imprint deeper into your psyche their own MK Ultra programming. So whenever they ramp up the survival anxiety, like war and death and the nuclear boogeyman, and they do that for a long time in society, and they get everybody really frightened, then they'll start rolling out their mind control programs on top of that. So they'll piggyback in all these new ideas like leftist progressivism, and they can basically shift the paradigm of the entire society based on these neuro-linguistic programming techniques. So it's a form of mass hypnotism. They call it gaslighting. All right.
The Irish government there a few days ago recently had they run a drill of the country running out of fuel, and so I can see that as the maybe next crisis of maybe blaming Russia on a cyber pandemic, and then causing sort of like no oil to come into countries, a bit like maybe what's happening in Sri Lanka, chaos, and I can see kind of another lockdown coming maybe. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and they're that way, like in freedom-loving countries like you guys in the U.S., where people resist this type of Manchurian, draconian, just fucking total, all your freedoms lost overnight type of horse shit. The way to implement it is just through inflation. If we make gas $10 a gallon, then you're on a de facto lockdown. You can't get out and move around the country anyway. Right? If we make it so difficult for you to even hardly survive, then people will be lining up to just buy into whatever bullshit they're rolling out,
And
so
and they've really corrupted people. Like for me, I come from kind of quite a middle class, upper middle class. Or Skerries is sort of like a nice place, a small town that is expensive enough to buy a house here, and everyone is just because they're too busy with their jobs and too busy thinking about their holidays and too busy with their consumerism and buying their next car. Everyone is just has the latest SUV, and everyone's just thinking about I kind of went through this about 10 years ago, like just thinking about what to buy next and the next thing, and people are just completely distracted with all their thoughts and ideas about what they want, unfortunately. And sport as well is a major distraction that people are just hypnotized on, and in a way it is a form of hypnosis, I think. Even football and the colors you see, and just the fact that a lot of women just can find it completely boring, and men just are completely enthralled in it. And I'd rather just play a game of football rather than watch a game of football. I've kind of been out like that my whole life, and I just never was able to support a football team. I just never had an interest in it, and I think that was what kept me sort of awake, if that makes any sense. But
yeah, no, it absolutely does. I mean, it's bred in circus. It goes all the way back to the days of Caesar and well before. They know what they're doing. I mean, this social engineering and predictive programming and all of these things come into play. They're Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching. He wrote that there are basically he has a theory of thirds. In my Irish accent, I like to call it a theory of turds. Yeah, a theory of turds. So Lao Tzu's theory of turds basically says that there's always going to be 1/3 of the people that have got the right idea, and then there will be 1/3 of the people who don't really give a fuck either way, and then there'll be 1/3 of the people who have got their heads completely up their ass. And he said the 1/3
sounds right.
Yeah, the 1/3 that have it figured out, they'll hang out with each other and among themselves, and they need to work hard to try to at least try to preserve the good word and get their work done and all of that without being interfered with by the other 2/3. But it really comes down. They say it's even less than that these days.
It kind of sounds like you're saying turd as in as a shite, but
right, well,
you've nearly got it.
I'm trying to use my fake Irish accent because I think it sounds funny, or a theory of turds.
But do you, what can we move, let's move on to the topic of, because you might have a bit of understanding about the number 33 in gematria, and like for instance, the town I live in, the bus that comes here is the 33 bus, and so I must have been maybe programmed to see it my whole life. But I've like I'd wake up in the morning, I'd look at the clock, and it'd be 33, and I check my phone, and I'm starting, like, the more I kind of look into it, the more I see it as like just as a sign from my higher self, as just pay attention to the now and being here, and the fact that we've got 33 vertebrae in our spine, and Jesus died at 33, and I don't know, it's kind of like
I had my daughter at 33.
Yeah, very interesting. But when I went crazy though 2 years ago, I was I was so obsessed about the numbers. Like I thought I could explain everything in numbers. I had like I was drawing a love heart with 3. If you imagine drawing a tree and then getting the point, and I had the ideas about 4, and 4 being, I suppose, meaning time, and 3 being maybe the frequency of love, and I don't know. There's so many different ways to actually look at the numbers, but I don't know.
Well, I can give you a bit of an interpretation from a Taoist point of view, which is Chinese esoteric mysticism. 3 is a very sacred number in Chinese Tao, right? Of course, in the Western culture, even we have the Trinity, right? But in Chinese Tao, there are 3 treasures within 3 realms. So there are basically 3 realms that appear to man. There's the realm of man, which is located at the center dantian, or elixir field. It's similar to the idea of a chakra, but it's a little different. In Chinese Tao, there are 3 elixir fields, or heat centers in the body, that seem to produce everything in the physical life and its connection with the spiritual. Anyway, there's heaven above, mankind and animals and all of the manifestation in the middle, which is known as the realm of man, the heart-centered awareness, right? And then there's the earth below us. So the basic connection in the first 3, there are 3 threes. You're probably familiar with Karanzan 333. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Demonic?
Yeah, I worked with this, and well, I didn't work. I suppose I was working with them in a way. In hospital, you meet some amazing enlightened souls that are trapped in that addiction, demons of addiction, and Lohman was his name, and he was an amazing musician, and he told me about Karanzo in hospital, and he was, because I was explaining my world of 3.
Well, it's a powerful demonic force that appears as a 9, right? So we have Karanzan, and even mentioning it on YouTube can get me banned. I got a community strike last time I talked about him, so we have to be a little bit careful there, right? They don't like you revealing too many deep secrets on live television, because somebody might actually tune in and learn something. Yeah, so the first division of 3s is in heaven above, and it divides into 3 levels of heaven, so that's 3 above. Right, and then the 3 within the human realm is the 3 virtues of the 3 dantians, which are the Jing Qi, the Qi, and the Shen. So it's the 3 levels of cultivation within man, and then there are another 3 below you. So that represents the lightning strike coming down on the tree of life to the sphere of Yasad, right, the 9. So it's the electrified manifestation before it becomes a reality in this manifest realm. As you may know, on the Tree of Life, the 10 is Malkuth, and that's when you can actually see it. But by the time you can see it, it's already dying, so to speak. It's already going out of existence. So to truly understand the awakening insight of the 333 or the 33 and that type of thing, it means that you get to a level of preempting things. And when you can preempt, that means you can see the future and you can change your fate. But the dangerous thing about it, and the reason the DMFers and the controllers don't want people figuring out these subtleties, is that you can influence the entire material sphere, and so you can influence the fate of a nation, you can influence the fate of the world. And so
Wow.
if you achieve great clarity with the lightning strike, you can make huge earthquakes appear at will, you can
Yeah.
create thunderstorms, you can create like natural disasters that are more powerful than even they can interpret. So they really try to steer people away from these high mystic truths.
Yeah,
And that's
like I believe you. Jesus said that we will have greater powers than he was able to even create, I suppose. Um, Mary, I used to listen to Marty Leeds quite a lot. Marty Leeds, 33. Yeah, he's a great man. I haven't
he's
been listening to him recently.
isn't he FEB?
Marty Leeds, 33. Huh?
Is he I thought he was flat earth British.
No, that's Marty Leakta or something.
Oh,
Leakta.
okay. Are
Yeah,
you
completely other. He's completely other. He's an American. Marty Leakta, I think. Or I can't. He's a bit of a weird name. He's
Marty
British.
Leeds is American? Oh, no. Martin is not. He's over there in the UK. I believe he's a Londoner, or he's somewhere in that area.
Cardiff. He's from Cardiff.
Oh, he's from
Mar-
Cardiff. Okay.
Marty. Yeah, do you tune into him? Do you? Yeah, he's funny. The funny fella. Yeah.
FEB. Yeah. Oh, I love him, man. I've watched
Flat
him
Earth British. Yeah.
for years. Yeah, he's fantastic.
Flat
Flat-
tones.
Oh yeah. Infinity plus one, man. Infinity plus two.
Yeah, but he is kind of, there is that psyop that he's kind of been drawn into of the
Yeah.
whole pizza model realm of the world, and that is sort of wrong. Did you ever hear of Jake the asshole?
No, never did.
He was being, because a lot of these people don't realize they're actually being coaxed into a false model of the world, because no one really truly knows.
Right. That's the fact right there.
Yeah, and that's where. But 8 p.m. research, they are have a look at that channel. There's a group of them. It's One Consciousness and 8 p.m. research. There's a group of these people that have come together to research the true reality of this world, and they think that the rainbows are basically these generators of wind, of the weather and stuff, and as above, so below. There's other things that are deep underground that is causing these manifestations. And if you ever look at rainbows, they're always in the same spot, and they kind of rotate. And if you ever frame lapse a rainbow, it will move up and move down. And it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a reflection of the dome, like people say. It's yeah, they do great research into the reality of this world. So
That makes some sense to me. I've had some interesting encounters with rainbows since I mentioned my daughter and her appearing in my 33rd year. There was some interesting phenomena around her birth that deeply associated itself with like fairy tale and folklore and stuff. And so I firmly believe that she manifested from the unseen realm and came here to be my friend and stuff like that. And according to Chinese Taoism, people these days, they're always saying, oh, I didn't choose to be born and this type of horse shit. And according to the Taoist tradition, yes, in fact, you did. That your parents and their fate and fortune and all of that you were attracted to them prior to your conception. And that that you actually stimulated them to engage, like Cupid's arrow, to engage in the lovemaking so that you would have an opportunity to slip in and live a life with them as their child. So these people who say, oh yeah, and I wish I would have been aborted and all of this stuff, it's like, no, you don't. There's something that's going on prior to our appearance that we don't have very clear knowledge of. It's beyond the veil, so to speak. And if the truth of spirit means anything, it means that these things are realities, and we do project in from a sphere of preforms, right? And according to the teaching here that I've studied for so long, is that evolution means that we evolve over many lifetimes. However, here's the problem. Like you just stated a moment ago, once you get fixed into a certain dogma of this, that, or the other thing, then you end up making yourself a tool and a shill for a transmission that isn't the truth, because the truth cannot be easily put into human language. And so a lot of these guys fall into that same trap, is that they presume upon enlightenment, but then it goes awry and it becomes something else. So I try to be extremely wary of that in my own dissertation.
I think if you like, I had this thought of, I'm just going to focus on enlightenment and just force my meditation and just focus on fixing my back and getting rid of my and I found that the more you just focus in on something, actually the harder it gets. And I think, like, my sister is a PhD, and my dad is he worked in the Royal College of Surgeons for 40 years. And when the people get so focused on their careers and their field of intellect, they can't see other possibilities of this world, and therefore they're not really open to understanding true wisdom, if that makes any sense.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's one of the ways I benefited immensely from Dr. Bob Wilson's book, Prometheus Rising. I found a copy of that when I was like 13 or 14, and I just bought into it whole hog. And his whole thing is that you should do enough paradigm shifting while you're young that your thought systems becomes malleable. And he even came up with his own language, which was like he at least researched it. I don't think it was his invention, but it was about taking the is out of language. And rather than saying something is something else, right, that we just say something seems like something else. And so the whole idea is that you try to stay malleable. So he laid out a system of exercises that I did my entire life just for fun, that like for 2 or 3 weeks, you try to convince yourself that you're an atheist, right? And you work from that paradigm. You gather all of the data points that you're a firm atheist, and you do it for a month, and you try to firmly convince yourself that it's reality. Then you jump around and do another one. You try
I've done a lot of that in my beliefs. I've went into veganism, and then I went into carnivorism, and I went into, like, believing even certain religions, and getting really into all these. And even in sport, my whole life, I was never able to settle down on a particular sport. I played table tennis, I played squash, I played rugby, I played soccer, I played Gaelic football, and I was never able to just. I always got bored and just moved on to the next thing, because I don't know. It's interesting.
Well, he says it's important for creating malleability in your intelligence. That way you're always poised at the brink. You hold things in abeyance, and that keeps life interesting. You never lose this childlike wonderment, this sense of wonder. He says that, that's one of the most beautiful things in human life, is that it is a wondrous creation, and there is a lot of mystery. So these guys out there trying to pull back the curtain and saying, oh, look here, this is what's behind the curtain, and they have it all figured out. And that's a dead mentality. That means that you've already crystallized, and thus you experience death. And if Christ's teaching means anything, and I think it does, he said, let the dead bury the dead. And what he means is that people with dead doctrines are burying themselves. The dead bury the dead. And to have Christ consciousness, it means to be malleable. I don't buy into the whole Christian ideal that you have to subjugate yourself to the Christ image on the crucifix. I think that's a deviation of his teaching. I believe firmly that Jesus was a magi, and he was a practitioner of high-level magics, and that he did learn the secrets of, like, I'll just come right out and say it, Chinese Qigong. And so in Chinese Qigong, there are systems of Qigong where you can learn to walk on water. I mean, these tales of yore, these immaculate conceptions, walking on water, healing of hands, creating light with the body and the mind and stuff like that. That's all like deeply rooted in Chinese systems of esotericism. So like the Jesus story, when you look at it through the eyes of Taoism, it's like, that's run-of-the-mill kung fu practice. That's not a big deal, right?
Is qigong simply just qi, meaning energy, the electricity that runs through us, and gong meaning maybe the vibration or sounds that pushes the electricity through the body?
Well, that's part of qigong. That's a system of qigong. That's actually called zhouyu. That means to cast incantations through vibration. But qigong, yeah. So qi basically just means breath, right? So it's the breath force, and it's the desire to breathe, and it's located at the center dantian, the lungs, and all of the solid organs. So there's a cauldron. The main part of the trunk of the body is the cauldron, where
I've been doing that 50 times religiously.
Oh, have you? Okay, good.
Yeah.
And then the gong part of it, basically, it just means like yoga. But if you directly translate it from Chinese into English, it just means breath work. So it means to do work with breath. Gong means work. So like gong fu means hard work and like work and achievement. And then zhou gong means to go out and work. And so qi and gong just together, basically it just means breath work. So it means doing meditation and rhythmic breathing. But the idea is that the qi is many things. There are various levels of qi. There's wei qi, there's yuan qi, there's fu qi. There's all kinds of different qi in the body, right? This electromagnetic divisions. But at a more basic level, you can learn it through just three basic things. Jing, which is the seminal essence, your semen. And it's not just the semen, but it manifests as semen, right? It's the sexual drive, the kundalini. Then there's the qi, your compassion, your breathing energy, your inspiration. And then the third element is shen. It's the spirit, the force that travels through the cosmos. So jing, qi, and sen. And we say in Chinese Taoism, we say lian jing hua qi. So you cultivate your sexual energy to produce more qi. And then you lian qi hua shen. You cultivate the qi to produce shen, which means greater, brighter intelligence, and to start to develop an etheric body, an astral body, which you have them. But you're basically transferring the energy that would normally come out in the way of ejaculation or orgasm. Instead of letting that come into the world, you're transforming it up the 33 vertebrae of the spine and into the mind center, so that it can transform into spirit. And when you reverse the tendency of ejaculating yourself out into the world, through over-sexualization and just any form of, like, losing the jing and the qi can take many different forms. It can be scattering yourself in too many directions, right? It can be like you were talking about, addictions and this kind of thing, right? Which I have my own, right? I've got my own. I'm no saint, but I've learned the path of the saint through Chinese Taoism, at least. And it's similar to the Rosicrucian model of the Christ consciousness, that rather than ejaculating, you abstain and you raise that seminal fluid up through there. Basically the spine has like a hollow straw through the middle of it. And you drink your semen with your brain. To put it in the most basic terminology.
I've practiced a lot of this tongue touching and trying to get the tongue up the back of the nose, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But you can taste it, I think, sometimes, this sweet sort of...
the golden elixir.
Yeah, I think I have tasted it. But when you're kind of like, it's...
The elixir of immortality. Yeah, one of the things that disperses it is talking. Like we were talking about right at the start of our interview. I said, most of it's just about, keeping your mouth shut and getting your work done. And so even talking, like right now, it dissipates qi rapidly. So Lao Tzu says in the Tao Te Ching, he says, those who know do not speak, and those who speak do not know, right? So we're sitting here and we're rapping about it. It just shows our ignorance.
Jeff wants you to Jeff. It's vitamin C, unfortunately, and a little bit of zinc. So sorry about that.
Jeff's always trying to stir me up and get me to go
Yeah,
live.
he's feeling neglected there. Give him a bit of love over there in the chat.
Is he okay? I can't see him. I'm sorry. Okay, so Russ Lad is in the house as well. Welcome, Russian Lad. I'm glad we've got you on our side. Everyone's siding with Ukraine these days, and I'm like, nobody's got any love for Pooty Poot. What's up with that? That shit ain't cute. A little shout out to Pooty Poot if you're out there in Happy Land.
Pooty Poo.
Yeah, I love me some Pooty Poot. I think he's a hell of a better leader than old Potato Head Joe.
It's God knows what's happening, but people are just because I've mentioned in my family that, or even my wife, like it's not all that it seems to be. I'm now a Putin supporter, you know, and I'm like, I don't support either side, you know, like God's sake, it's just ridiculous. I don't know.
What did I miss that Jeff said that was so important?
I don't know. No, he just said, "What's the hell is going on?" And he's just.
Oh, okay. Monsieur Tiedrick, I see you out there in Happy Land. He looks a lot like Charlemagne, right? Are you familiar with Charlemagne?
No.
Yeah, Charlemagne was a French emperor back like in the 800s or something, 700s, and he succeeded in uniting most of Western and Central Europe and was recognized as the first emperor to rule from Western Europe since the fall of the Roman Empire. And so if you look at any pictures of Charlemagne, he looks just like Jeff's little headshot there. So I always call him, because Charlemagne was the father of Europe, you know, he united most of Western Europe after the fall of the Roman Empire. So he's a French guy.
Well, I think we're still ruled by Rome, to be honest. From my understanding,
I don't doubt it.
Somehow the Vatican is in control of the Queen, and the Queen is sort of in control of America, and then so that's why you have this this global mafia being controlled by the Vatican.
You know that her family
England,
still owns something like 60% of land titles globally. 60% of the planet's land titles are in her family's possession.
But that's why I think a lot of people don't understand that Russia is sort of against this whole fake Vatican Church that is, you know, this fake the fakeness that's it seems like it's really corrupted, you know. And are you froze? Oh, you haven't froze.
No, I'm trying to read the chat. Go ahead, keep talking.
Yeah, I just come on my train of thought. It's so complex and so it kind of confuses me a bit. But there's a great documentary by Yellowstone, and this Texan lady or man, I'm not too sure. The Lie the Vatican Told. It's split up into 8 different episodes. It's like four hours long or so. I watched it years ago, and it was on Vimeo, but I'm not too sure if it's on Vimeo anymore. But it's kind of it goes back hundreds of years. It's been like 100-year takeover. That's sort of like it's kind of ongoing today. I think we are coming to the point of, you know, it ending to a certain point. Like I have a feeling that every truth is going to come out, maybe in the next few years somehow.
Well, I recently received a revelation. I was deep in meditation, and I'll give you a couple of the ways we talk about it in Tao, because someone asked about it. I think Russian Lad, he wants me to interpret Christianity through a Taoist view, but that would take a long time, and that's not really the nature of the show today. But people were saying 22222, like the 22nd of February 2022 was going to be a key date. And you notice that on the 23rd, it was 24th. A lot of the world said that Russia didn't invade the Ukraine until the 24th, but the news dropped here on the 23rd. And previous to that, I had been deep in meditation in what I like to call the fathomless cavern. And when I'm in the fathomless cavern, there's many, many strange and paranormal things happen. But I looked up and there was a ledge, and on that ledge, a bright light illuminated, and there was a choir of angels, and they said it's 2:23:23 is the key date. So they didn't tell me what it meant, but they said the 222 was bullshit. It was actually going to be the 23rd of February 2023. That was the date when things were going to crack wide open. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. The time right after that I was thinking about it, though, I drew the tower. Are you familiar with the tarot and the tower card?
A little bit of the tarot. I've just kind of started to get into the tarot deck card.
Well, the tower card,
in hospital, actually, there was a lad in there who read cards, and he told me so many truths that kind of came true in my life that I kind of was like, he told me truths that were so truthful that I kind of didn't want to believe his truths, because like he said stuff like I was going to split up with my wife, and it sort of is coming true, but because he told me that, I didn't want to sort of believe it, if that makes any sense. And like he was telling me about the mannerisms of my wife and what she was like, and I was just like, how the fuck is he not knowing this? But he read cards for Madonna, and she said she wasn't very nice.
Yeah, the tarot can be unerringly accurate, and like I personally don't like to read cards for divination purposes, because mostly the tarot is meant to be used as a magical tool of self-cultivation. And so the Fool's Journey, like the 22 major arcana, or greater teaching as it is known, there's two sets of cards in the tarot, as you may know. There's the 22 trump cards, which is the major teaching, and then there are the 56 minor arcana, which are the lower teaching. So it's in the system of you're probably familiar with the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn.
Not particularly. Yeah.
Aleister Crowley.
Yeah, well, yeah. Jordan Maxwell was a friend of Aleister Crowley.
Is that right? Yeah. I'm in that same circle. I grew up with. I grew up with the.
Sorry, you definitely look into his interviews. Age of Truth TV is that show over the years has really sort of helped me understand the world.
I was initiated as a boy through my father's younger brother. He bought me hypnotism therapy with Israel Regardie, who was Aleister Crowley's secretary. So I'm more of a Regardieite than a Crowleyite. Like I never bought into Crowley's debauchery and hedonism and sex orgies in order to achieve your magic. I thought that was a decadent path. And so I was more of the religious style of like Regardie teaching, like pray often, work hard, keep your mind pure, this kind of thing. So they're two opposite schools. Like Crowley generated his own path of what I consider to be almost entirely blinds, whereas the teaching goes back to what's called the Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor. And so it predates Crowley, but Crowley was one of the inheritors of it, and Regardie was the only one to reveal it to the public. He thought that the time was right. He was, like I said, he was Crowley's secretary for a few years, and he thought that the time was right to bring the teaching forward and publish it openly, so that people in the public could practice magic and have access to it as well. But yeah, that did shock me that I wasn't familiar with Jordan Maxwell. Never heard of him, even though like our circles are so closely linked. Like I was born in LA County. I grew up in naval intelligence, and I was learning and being a child of MK Ultra and hypnotism from a very, very young age. I almost got drafted into the space program, but my father wouldn't allow it. My dad's like, that's horse shit. There is no fucking space program. They're just gonna ass rape you and make you a shill to get on television and spout their bullshit.
I assume that everyone knows about Jordan Maxwell, but because he says stuff like simply like the court system, and it's a racket, and you're behind the bar, and the judge is wearing the black gown, the Saturn thing, and he talks about simple words.
He revealed a lot of that, but I remember getting all of that info and intel from Freeman Fly. I guess Jordan Maxwell was probably on Freeman Fly a lot, right?
Freedom Fly. That's a band, isn't it? Freedom Fly.
No, Freeman Fly. Freeman.
Oh, Freeman. No,
He
I
was a
don't know.
big. I think even saying his name on YouTube is verboten anymore because he was a big YouTube guy, but he got kicked off. So he has his own website, and you can check him out if you're interested. Yeah, anything that we mentioned, guys, in the conversation, you should type up in the chat, like Miss Mary Moon or Russian Lad or any of you guys, because I'm trying to keep up with the conversation with Simon, but then I'm also trying to read the chat at the same time, and it's like herding cats to try to keep up with everything. Jeff wants to know if we've heard of the Fermi paradox. Are you familiar with that one, Simon?
No, I don't have a clue. Fermi
Okay, so it's the rationale that there are a certain amount of planets in the universe, and that means that the probability of aliens existing is really, really high, but that it's also that the distances are also great that they would never be able to visit us and this kind of thing. So what do you think about that?
I think aliens are already here on Earth for some reason. That's my feeling towards it.
Do you consider them subterraneans or subaquas or hollow earthers, or do you think they're from the sky? That's my question.
I don't know if I believe in the dumps, the deep underground military bases, but I'm open to the idea that there is, and there's. David Icke, his whole theory that the Queen's a lizard and a shape-shifting reptilian.
With the tongue. I got a little lizard in me too, and Jeff he's an alligator, man. Oh, here's a fascinating one, man, that I've been experiencing just recently in Dreamland. I've been going into Dreamland, and I've been down deep in the deeper fathoms of Dreamland, and I've been meeting with all of these crocodile head beings, and they've been commiserating with me and telling me shit. And I was like, why are you guys fucking talking to me? Just dreaming, lucid dreaming. And so I'm down there, and I've got these crocodiles whispering in my ear, and these guys are powerful. They've got anthropomorphic bodies, they look like humans, but just like the full-on alligator head. And I'm like, how can a human body support an alligator head like that? And one of them opened his trap really, really big, and he said, my throat is exactly the same size as yours. He's like, I can live on the same amount of food that you live on. It's just a giant alligator head. And he's like, don't. And he told me, he said, don't be distracted by the alligator heads. And the craziest thing, I was in there and I was listening to Lovecraft, and one of Lovecraft's short stories, I think one of his first ones, is called The Nameless City. And in the Nameless City, it's like filled with alligator head dudes. And I'm like, okay. So Lovecraft knew. It's crazy, man. But I experienced shit in Dreamland that Lovecraft wrote about. And it's like every time I discover something in the fathomless cavern, there's a Lovecraft story about it.
Fathomless cavern. Have you seen the series Moon King?
I haven't.
Because I think you'll enjoy that.
Tell me about.
It's about Egypt, the gods of Egypt possessing this man in England, and he has a split person. I don't want to give it away too much. He has a split personality, and he's also an American at the same time. And this god possesses his body and is able to do these kind of crazy things. Tell me the name. Moon King.
Okay.
Pretty good. Yeah, it's a Marvel. It's based on a Marvel comic, but I'd be kind of a believer that all these Marvel comics, and there's lots of truth in those. There's yeah.
Oh yeah, here's the thing, and this was mentioned by Rudolf Steiner recently too. I had sat down and I was writing in my journal, and I felt like Chinese call it Bi Shen. They call it the pin of the spirit. Like a moment ago, I was telling you about Jing, Qi, and Shen. So the whole point of doing Chinese Kung Fu and Chinese Qigong is to transform your lower sexual energies into higher spiritual energies in the brain center, right? And so they say when you achieve that, then the spirit will write through your pin. And Rudolf Steiner 100 years ago was giving a lecture where he says that in the spirit realm, they don't engage in things like writing with the hand, because they can write directly into the Akashic records with their mind, right? They can manifest things into the Akashic record through mental mental ideation. They don't need to write, but they say that they find human writing very interesting because it's very magically connected. And then out of nowhere, a Philip K. Dick thing popped up, right? And he's talking about writing these fictional stories that later become realities. And I thought, oh, this all harkens back to Dr. Robert Anton Wilson. He wrote this originally. He said that if you write fictional things and you're in the realm of spirit while you're doing it, then you're tapping into the future and you're actually creating the future. And then it's a system of magic. And so you can write a story about something happening to a fictional character and it'll happen to you. And if you do any writing and you engage in fictional activities, and you can transfer that physical energy into spiritual realities.
I've been kind of writing my thoughts down in a diary, and I've been doing it in a kind of meditative mode. And the better I'm trying to practice meditation when I'm still awake and still in this world. But I think that when I'm really meditating, my handwriting gets much more fluid and changes almost. Like when I'm really not meditating and I'm really thinking really precisely, my handwriting goes really straight and really precise. Whereas if I'm in the realm of creativity and trying to create music, where I believe music comes from, it flows just much more magically out of the pen, and you're even like holding the pen really, really lightly is such a thing, because I'm just becoming much more aware of doing all this chi work of the tension in my body, especially in my hands, holding the tension in your body and feeling any sort of tension in your hands. I'll show you the Moon King little.
Okay. Yeah. I'll look for it. Definitely.
Kung Fu type of but it's pretty good.
Yeah, it sounds like it's right up my avenue, right up my line.
Yeah, I don't really watch TV at all, but sometimes I just, I like to turn the mind off and, well, not really turn the mind off, go into fantasy land because.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I typically stay away from the TV for the most part, but when I do, I'll end up binge watching, 10 or 15 hours of something if it's really interesting. But for the most part, I just listen to radio. I got myself a pair of those Bluetooth headphones, which I know is not great for you, but it's more convenient, and I'll just listen to radio shows all day long, but mostly just about paranormal and spiritual and like Rudolf Steiner and this kind of thing. One of the purposes for me joining the YouTube platform and like having my own channel was that I felt like you should try to produce at least a tenth of what you consume, So if you listen to 10 hours of radio, then you should do an hour show, and try to get some feedback from the community. Because I mean, what is spiritual cultivation unless you're commiserating with other people and pushing it forward somehow, and like being here in China for 20 years, I've had almost no social life. You know what I mean? Right. So this is my, meeting with like you and having a conversation. This is my social outlet.
Yeah.
Which is important. You should not remove yourself from the community. You have to stay active in the community.
I have kind of disassociated myself with a lot of my friends because I suppose people have their families and their their beliefs and about this world. But for me, I find myself kind of being happy alone. Part of me has kind of rejected some of my friends because I suppose I just didn't want to be influenced by their concerns and their worry in a way. And, I think that's one of the worst things you can do for people is to worry for them. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. And don't burn your bridges. Everything's cyclical.
Yeah. Right? You mentioned Rudolf Steiner, APM research. I don't really know much about him, but they always mention Rudolf Steiner.
Okay.
On APM research.
I've listened to thousands of hours of his lectures, and I think at this point, I learned about him 2 years ago on Dark Journalist, and I literally just dove in head deep, and I listened to thousands of hours of his lectures here online. There's Rudolf Steiner archives, and you can listen to just about everything that he ever put into public speaking, and I've read all of his written works and all of that, so I think I have my head around Steiner a little bit, but I'll tell you.
Whatever way, they quote him quite a lot.
So I'll tell you straight up, he didn't have it all figured out. It's not a
Yeah.
direct mystery school teaching. A lot of it is esoteric Buddhism and Hinduism, and I've never studied either because I'm not interested in it. I follow a Taoist path, and so um, everything I studied was uniquely Chinese up until about 15 years ago. I started getting deep into Kabbalah and the Tree of Life. And I'll tell you, man, I practiced Chinese Qigong for 20 years, and it didn't really wake up and start to make sense until I started to correlate the Occidental and Oriental systems. I mean, learning about the Tree of Life, I don't know if you're familiar with it, not the Jewish one per se, but the Hermetic Tree of Life. Man, my Qigong woke up like a firecracker. It was so unbelievable, the change, because I was raised in a Western tradition and I studied esoteric Christianity and Rosicrucianism, and I was in like a Boy Scouts club that was actually like Lutheran, so it was Christian. We were called the Royal Rangers, and we were like Boy Scouts for God, basically. But I became disenchanted with the church because there's some vile, evil, wicked people in it, and I felt like they were getting nothing done. I'm like, you guys are in here fellowshipping, you have wonderful temples, you're singing songs and stuff, but you're not really doing any work. Like, you're not producing any magic. You know, if Jesus's teaching means anything, then we should be able to hear thunder resound. You know, we should be able to make lightning
or
manifest.
they simply don't even tell you what prayer is, or prayer for
Right.
me is meditation, more or less, and connecting to your higher self. But they don't teach that. So, or even something like inner vision. Have you ever had any inner vision experiences?
Oh, everything I talk about is the fathomless cavern. That's all inner vision work. That's all.
No, but I'm talking about closing your eyes and seeing with your third eye, with your pineal gland.
Yeah. I have a very refined 3D processor inside. I can. One of my most profound one was about 15 years ago. I was in meditation. I was in a break during teaching classes because I've been an English teacher for the last 25 years. But I didn't have any classes for the day, and I was in one of the classrooms, and I turned off the lights, and I was sitting there, and I went into meditation, and then I ended up spending like 2 hours in the fathomless cavern and learning about it and stuff. So there are various levels of it. Obviously, there'd be the astral projection level, like where you go in space and time in legitimate places like here on Earth or in other places. But there's an entire inner kingdom. I could show you a GIF of it. Go ahead and tell me what you mean, though.
Yeah, no, but I had an experience recently where I do a lot of meditation in the shower, and I didn't even realize I was meditating in the shower as a kid. And it's something about having the water go straight on the very top of your head. It just feels the warmest or the coolest when it's straight on the top of your head.
Yeah,
So
that's a qigong point. That's Bai Hui, 100 meeting point.
So if you were able to sit in the water and they have it coming over your face and not worry about, inhaling the water where your breath is really, really slow, and then having it really as hot as you can get it, like, to the point where it's uncomfortable. So you have to kind of almost like hum away the heat of the shower so that you don't feel it and you feel it's actually just cool, but it's actually really warm. And then when your body really overheats, turn the shower to cold, and then you feel the coolness of the water, like, feeling nice. But then also you want to feel the waking of the cool shower. And then you start to breathe really heavily. And you go from the really slow breath to the really fast breath. And after that, all the chi, I think, gets built around your body. And then I noticed when I afterwards, I just stand there and kind of like bliss, kind of going, that's really nice. So I got out of the shower, towel dried my hair, and I noticed sparkles when I was towel drying my hair. Whatever what I was doing with my, if you really scrape the head and close your eyes, you can kind of see it. But I had the towel over my head, and I was just like kind of like this, and then I was like put my hands over the towel, and I saw the light come in the bathroom window. Like it was a bright sunny day, and it was like yellow light, so I could see through my hands and through the towel, but I wasn't seeing through my eyes. I was kind of seeing it at sort of this sort of angle, and I kind of didn't believe myself. I thought I was imagining the light, because I know the bathroom because I lived here for a little while. But I saw I saw the mirror, I saw the cup on the windowsill, and then when I turned my head, it didn't turn. The image wasn't in my mind; it was still there. Like, I saw the darkness of the mirror in the corner of the room, and I was just like, "Holy God!" But I noticed when I focused on it more with my mind, it went dark, and I was like, "Ah." I was just like, "Don't focus on it, or don't even think anything," and then I just let it come, and it kind of was like. Have you ever heard of Dan Winters? He kind of does the science of the consciousness of what is happening, of the vortex of this thing that we emit through our pineal gland. It's apparently
I'm not-
you can teach young children this really quickly because they're open to it, and they already do it, and they don't even realize they have the ability, because their mind hasn't been influenced in a corrupt sort of way to say that you need your eyes to see, basically.
Yeah, it's in our tradition in Taoism we have like different levels for everything. So like certain things should not be talked about with children, and like high level magics you really shouldn't teach children very young. And one of the prohibitions is because they are very open to it and they do have a lot of great power. And the problem is they can inadvertently cause trouble for like the entire family or the entire community by summoning up like really powerful magics at a young age. So we're a little bit careful about that, like in this tradition. But like young boys start kung fu at 9 years old. They don't do it really young because it interferes with their bone growth and their development.
So I'm learning from because
higher level magics are saved for later on and stuff.
I was thinking.
So it's a little bit dangerous to engage that. That's why they're trying to rewire all of humanity by getting this leftist programming into the schools with young children, because they know that they can shift the entire world paradigm if they get all of the young kids, like 5, 6, 7, 8, believing in this rainbow unicorn world that they're creating. Then boom, it can happen overnight because they can use the children's magic to create it. So yeah, it's a very dangerous thing. I don't know. It's not within my control. I'm neither for or against it. I mean, that's up to the world. The colored dust of the world shouldn't really concern us that much, no matter where you go, Simon, there you are. No matter where you are in your cultivation, that's where your cultivation is. So all of the tricks and techniques, they might reveal certain things to you, but they will never replace hard work, and they'll never replace the daily grind of getting it done. Supposedly we come here with a mission, and that mission is to live. So one thing is that some of it becomes a distraction, and just get busy with living. There are two different philosophies in that direction. That's why I don't really ascribe to Buddhism very much, because they believe in this wheel of Dharma, and that we come here and it's all horse shit and it's samsara and it's suffering and it's all of this. Whereas the Taoists, they're very opposite to that. They're very optimistic. They're like, you came here to party, so get busy partying, and if partying means spreading joy and cheerfulness to other people, then do that. According to Lao's teaching in the Tao Te Ching, it's do your virtue, live your virtue. If part of your virtue is smoking a couple of squares, then smoke those squares with great enthusiasm. Get it done. Go ahead.
Now that you mentioned the whole smoking thing, my mum has been smoking since she was 11 years old, and my dad was a smoker when we were kids, and he got a few colds, so he decided to give up. I'd say I was 15 or so, and it took him nearly 10 years to give up. But he gave up anyway. But he wanted my mother to give up, and in a way, their relationship, they kind of maybe should have split up 20 years ago. But because they had 4 kids, they never went their separate ways. They kind of kept each other. But because of his demonization of smoking onto my mother, and my mother not really being able to vocalize it, I kind of believe that she kind of developed this brain cancer because of the stress of someone constantly saying you should do this, do that, do this, if that makes any sense. And I love my dad dearly, but he doesn't really, believe in my theories of things. But that each to their own, So,
Yeah, the smoking won't kill you. It's the anxiety created by other people that will.
yeah, and I swear my mum had the brain tumor taken out, and she has like this sixth sense of being able to feel worry. And I don't worry about her at all because I believe that's a death sentence for someone, But my other sisters that come in and I can just hear the worry in their voice and their concern and just their mannerisms, and like my mum has this anxiety now because she feels that worry and she just runs away when they come in. I'm just like, oh, stop worrying about her, It's just so simple, but people don't see it. They don't
Yeah.
believe it in a way.
People, they come here, they need to do what they need to do, and we should let them live their lives. If smoking's not a great thing. I mean, it's highly addictive, obviously, and but let people do what they're going to do. It can or it cannot kill you. I tell you a couple of different stories. A couple of my older brothers. One, when I was 7 years old, he was 19 and he was murdered on his motorcycle. He was stopped at a red light and he was hit by a drunk driver, and he'd never done anything wrong. He was a great young man, right? Murdered, cut down at 19. His ghost came back to me one time when I was really young, and I dreamed of him, and he appeared in the hall and he said, "Come here." And he wanted to talk to me. He's like, "Come here, Frank," or called me Francis, And so I go over there and he said, "Never worry about any of it. It's all horse shit." And he split out of there, he like beamed off.
Oh, that's great. That's a great message.
Great flaming red eyes, and he was
Wow.
like, he went off into the night. And then I had another brother that's 2 years older than me, Michael. I like to call him Mikhail because he always protected me. Always, all throughout life, he was always my, my bodyguard, my bigger brother. Yeah. So Mikhail, Saint Michael, he died just 2 years ago when the whole horse shit started, right? The whole hoax. We can't say too much because we'll get kicked off. But anyway, I feel like he got murdered by the institution, but because he bought into all of it. And he never smoked. He always was a hardcore exerciser, kung fu, surfing, vegetarian lifestyle, this kind of thing, drinking fruit juices, right? And bam, he's dead of a diabetic heart attack at 46.
Yeah,
so it's like
a fella, my dad, a lad that my dad worked with ran every day for an hour on the treadmill, didn't smoke, didn't drink, and he died of a heart attack. And
at 25, right?
I don't know what age he was, but he was like not the age of passing, And
yeah, 50, 60, something like that. Like
yeah,
my pops, my pops fought in 2 world wars. He got everything done. He was a big businessman after his Navy career, and dead at 70, 68, 70. And he never smoked. So it's like, you never know what's going to get you. Like he was killed by a stroke, but stress usually seems to be the biggest killer.
For me, food is just an addiction as smoking is as anything. Like, I see, for instance, my mother is addicted to having a Weetabix every single morning. I'm trying to say to her, like, get out of your addiction, Mum. You need to change up your food. And even my dad, he has the cornflakes and the muesli and the banana, and I'm like, fast for a day, or give your body a break.
Yeah. Well, be gentle.
They're slaves to their addiction. I don't say it like that,
I know.
I kind of do sometimes, but I don't know.
I know you have some insights into nutrition and stuff, and you're probably right about that. But I was thinking about it the other day too. Like my wife is big on that too. Like Chinese lifestyle is hugely centered around stir frying fresh vegetables every day, and it's an onerous process. I mean, she's out shopping for fresh vegetables. We come home, we got to wash them, we got to prepare them. We're spending 4 or 5 hours a day prepping food every day for our children because we want them to eat whole grain rices and fresh vegetables and fruits and lean meats and all of this. So we're doing right by them, But at the same time, good God, what an investment of time and energy. And I was thinking about the horse just the other day, because I eat muesli every day, morning breakfast kind of thing, stuff the gut with some muesli and cereals and stuff. And I thought, what about the fucking horse? He eats muesli his entire life. That's the only thing he ever eats,
Yeah.
So give
But
the
not
cattle,
all, not
give
all,
the cattle a break.
not all healthy food is necessarily healthy, because
Oh,
everyone has different intolerances to these chemicals that the plants produce to protect the plants from being consumed. Like the poison ivy family, the white potato can cause arthritis, and the tomato, the Italians never used to eat the skin of the tomato. The traditional because that's where and a lot of people I think suffer from arthritis because of foods they consume unwillingly. They don't really it could be all different types of food, but you can get too caught up in that as well. Like
I agree. We got real caught up in it when I was young, again, because of my brother. He loved to do physical training and kung fu, and he wanted to do all of the full-on juice diets, and we in high school we went up to 7 days of fasting, right? Total spiritual awakening.
Wow,
but it's later on, Master Nihua Ching, he told me, he said, it's a little too young. He said, when you're young, just eat whatever you want. He's like, you need the nutrition for your body, and he's like, your spirits will intuitively guide you to the correct foods.
I think when you get to a certain age, because your metabolism and your mind is developing, and you can't really control your mind. I think kids need to eat a lot of food all the time, and babies, you need to feed them, every few hours. So that's a good point about maybe after 21 or I don't know.
It's why I fell in mostly with the Taoist psychology and philosophies, is because in their teachings things aren't so cut and dry. It's like you don't have to do anything. Like Master Ni used to always say, he's like, he said the one principle you should have, there should be no musts. He says there are things that you should or should not do, and there are things that seem like good and beneficial things that maybe later on turn out not to be so great. He said, so the one thing is that you should not force yourself too narrowly into a dogma, that there should be no musts among people. Like, look at society today. You must wear a mask. You must get vaccinated. You must do this, that, or the other thing. It's like, no, that's the exact opposite of the human spirit. The human spirit craves freedom and newness and exploration and these types of things. And there can be no musts among the people, right? The leaders are making all of the wrong choices right now. And I feel like I should be entitled to that opinion. I should be entitled to that philosophy of freeness, at least for myself. But every time I say something like this on YouTube, they give me a community strike. They're like, you can't fucking think that way. That's wrong thing. Bam. Like they shut down the channel for 2 weeks, or they threatened to, cancel it entirely just because I said.
This is live on YouTube, is it? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Just because I say, just because I say human freedom's important. They're like, fuck you, community strike.
This will probably be taken down because we've mentioned a good few things. But
I'll probably, I don't know, maybe I'll have to turn this one to private after we stop, or just delete it entirely.
You mentioned dreams earlier on. I just recently, did you ever hear of Ken Wheeler?
No, a lot of my dream work started with Carlos Castaneda back when I was a teenager.
No, but I because I asked Ken Wheeler, yeah, he's
how do you spell it?
KenWH. He has this weird name. I can't pronounce it. Ken
No problem,
Wheeler.
right?
He's on YouTube. He's 250,000 subs on YouTube. He teaches about the magnetic. He's a master of understanding the world and speaks lots of languages, and he's a man, just pure wisdom, though. Anyway, but I asked him a question about dreaming, and I said to him, he mentioned he doesn't dream, and he said he knew the answers to why he doesn't dream. So I text him on YouTube saying, so why do you not dream? And he said, dreams are the fruit of ignorance, and wisdom doesn't allow the the dreams to animate in your mind. So I don't know. Sometimes if you think you're going down a path of wisdom and you can dream about it because your mind is actually still thinking about it. It does not. Your mind can tell the truth from we can tell the truth and lies. Our subconscious can, but when we're not looking at truth and we're looking at ignorance, then that's when your mind sort of thinks overnight when you're sleeping. And so
Well,
it's just made.
I'll mention two quick philosophies in order to address that. In Taoism, there's two fields. There's Laozi and Zhuangzi, and they were contemporaries. Zhuangzi was known as the dreaming prophet, and he did a lot of his writing through what he called dream writing. So he would sit in the hypnagogic state and write from the spirit world into our world, right? So that's one system of philosophy. He said that dreaming was great. There's entire voluminous amounts of Taoist poetry and alchemical secrets through dreaming, right? And then Lao Tzu was kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. He said that the best sleep is dreamless sleep. And when you want to achieve true longevity in life, then you sleep most of the time without dreaming. So in Taoism, we have two completely dichotomous views on this idea. But through the Hermetic teachings, dreaming is a vehicle with which to explore the spirit world. There are a lot of different kinds of things that can go on in dreamland. Someone that says they're not dreaming is kind of discounting genuine scientific research in the field, because everybody dreams a certain amount of times per evening in cyclical rotations. But if you wake up at the right times in your circadian rhythms, then you will not remember your dreams and you'll feel as if you had dreamless sleep. But yeah, there's something to be said to that. Definitely there's some dream activity that is not worthwhile. There's usually three levels, right? The theory of thirds. There's the level of you get reflections from your daily life and it's just agitation of the mind trying to work through problems. Then there's genuine spiritual discovery, like you go in deep spiritual realms within the fathomless cavern in your own body. And then there's a third level where spirits from the outside, either the ghostly realms or the celestial realms, will interact with you while you're sleeping. So the phenomena of poltergeists or a succubus and an incubus, these are real legitimate things within spiritual science. And to just discount that out of hand and say, okay, all of these thousands of years of research, and in more recent times, hundreds and hundreds and at least hundreds of thousands of hours of research into the fields of dreaming is just worthless. It's not a wisdom path. I think he's kind of full of shit in that respect. That's just my opinion, though. As long as you always go outside, looking outside yourself for other people's opinions on what your spiritual cultivation means, then you're going to have so many endless amount of human opinions that you will obfuscate the truth to yourself. I'm on the path of mostly my own independent spiritual research. I did have gurus of various kinds for my younger days, but now that I'm 50, it's like, do I need to really go outside, looking outside myself for the spiritual truth when I've found it so many times on my own? And I already have a really solid method for cultivation. It's like, nah, I don't really need to do that at this point. I do definitely like to investigate with other people that are on the paranormal path, like yourself or this Kin fellow, but people that are just going to out of hand discount certain things that they don't necessarily. Who is he to say? Who is he to overturn, like I said, 1,000+ years of research into this field? And he's just to discount it out of hand. It sounds very Buddhist to me. Very, very.
I think he is kind of Buddhist. I think he's
Stay away from the Buddhists, man. They'll send their demons. They will send their demons to devour your soul. Stay away from them.
Yeah. Did you ever hear of? I think I might ask you just before. Sat Yoga Institute, Shunta Murti.
No, haven't.
He's
you can tell me though.
He's on YouTube. Sat Yoga Institute.
Okay.
His name is Shuntamurti, but Sat Yoga Institute is his channel. I really resonate with his teachings of what he speaks. Like, I just think I heard about him from Dollar Vigilante, Jeff Berwick. Did you ever hear of him?
No, I'm like old school Thomas Cleary. Do you know Thomas Cleary? Are you familiar with him?
No.
Okay. Ni Hua Qing.
No, this fellow Jeff Berwick
Jing.
is, huh? No, he's not. He's just a Canadian living in Mexico, and he's
Okay.
a crypto person, and he makes videos with his dog, and he talks about globalism, Bill Gates, and cryptocurrency, and what's going on in the world.
Don't mention that, mate. We call him Willie Waits on this channel.
Willie Waits.
Willie Waits.
So,
Little Willie.
Yeah,
Because Big Willie was the first 92 administration. Are you familiar with the 92 administration in the U.S.? That was Slick.
His
Slick
the eugenics program his father had. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, we shouldn't go too far down that rabbit hole. In fact, man, Simon, it has been so much fun chatting with you. We should do this again really soon. But I've hit the hour where I got to wake my kids up and give them breakfast and get them up.
I'm feeling tired myself, so I better hit the bed. It was great chatting to you. And
great chatting with you. Thanks for joining the channel. Thanks for calling in. But before you leave, do you have anything you want to sign off or blurb or anything? Anything you want to say to the lovely people out in the ideas room?
Well, if you want to follow me about I've Simon 33 Truth, Goodness and Beauty, because I believe that's 3 ways to God, is to be good, to be truthful, and follow beauty around you. And
your channel name is just Simon 33 Truth, right?
Truth, Goodness and Beauty.
Oh, that's the whole length of it? Okay.
Yeah. So I teach the peacock. I've been just kind of focusing on one exercise, the peacock pose, in
Truth,
kind of got
beauty, and
truth, goodness, and beauty.
Truth, goodness, and beauty. Okay.
Yeah, and I suppose I've just literally over the past few weeks I've kind of really found my voice. I've kind of really feel awoken, so I'm starting to write music and just mess around on YouTube basically and creating, because I walked out of the airport a few years ago when they tried to force the mask on me, and luckily I haven't been able. I don't need to work at the moment, so life is good.
Tell them to fuck off then, right?
I need to get out there. 7 years a slave was enough for me, and
stuff the old muzzle and face diaper up your ass. I'm hitting the fucking road. You can kick rocks, you bastards. Yeah, no, good stuff, man. I put your channel. Is it written correctly? Do you see it there on the screen?
Yeah. If they search Simon 33 Truth, you should find me.
That's
my dog Apple.
Yeah, I've been watching you doing the Phoenix, man. You're doing really good with that. That's a lot more work than I'm willing to do in that direction. Of course, that's yoga, and that's also qigong. When you're breathing while you're doing your Phoenix, that's the definition of qigong. But in Chinese, we call yoga, we call it Dao Yin. So you're doing qigong while you're doing Dao Yin. So you're doing a kind of yoga, right? But the qigong part is just the movement of internal energy while you do that. The yoga part is just the posture, right? The stretching, the gentle stretching and the posture. But the chi aspect is just that coming in tune with the spirit and the physical body merging together as you breathe deeply and stuff. Like you've learned some basic qigong through your yoga systems, like, right? You know, the fire breath of the Kundalini. Are you familiar with that one? Yeah, that's a basic, simple fire up qigong breath. Really good to have you on, Simon. So much fun. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Definitely come back again. Let's schedule.
It's great. It's great. Great chatting to you. Whenever.
Let's do a Friday show every week.
Friday's a Frank Monday, huh?
Or whatever day you want. Yeah. Anytime.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'll catch you again. Okay. Take care, Al.
Yeah. Take care as well. Bye.
Blessings.
Bye for now. Namaste.
Namaste.
All right. That was good fun, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'm so happy that you guys all caught that. Jeff, you're fucking out of control, bro. I can't handle you. It's 7:40 here That was Simon 33 over there at Chris is in the chat too. God, I got so blown out just trying to connect with Simon that I ignored you guys in the chat, man. I'm sorry about that. I should have paid careful attention, but you guys can see how it goes. You got to interact with. There it is. There. Okay, so Chris chimed in. He's got the good message there for Simon. Definitely, guys, go over and sub him. I subbed him a couple of weeks ago when he came in and said hello. My philosophy is always sub me and I'll sub you back, right? We're all going to meet up one day in the next couple of years over at Jeff's house and raid his wine cellar. If he opens up the Frank Monday demon, he'll see a what we call a wine ghost that could drink him out of house and home within just a couple of days. Yeah, you'll have to rewind, man. The whole first hour was just me sitting here polishing my wand, waiting for someone to show up. And then Simon showed up about the end of the first hour. And so we went over a solid 2 hours. I wonder how much of this YouTube will allow to stay on the channel. Not going to happen, Jeff. I got to get busy doing shit, man. I got a whole morning routine of the rigmarole. Simon's a blessed soul. He's there in Dublin, under the thumb of the Queen. God save the Queen, right? So definitely fun tuning in with him. And Mary Moon was out in the ideas room for a little while. I think she's gone now. Miss Mary Moon, are you still out there? Russian Lad tuned in for a minute. Russian Lad, are you still here? Give me a yo if you're still out in Happy Land. Let me see those yos. Come on. That really puts a fucking lead in the pencil. Yeah, that's right. I'll turn it to unlisted. That's right, Jeff. I'll turn this one to unlisted. You're right about that. Because we may have gone too far down various rabbit holes for them to endure and put up with our horse shit. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and we'll flip this one to unlisted so that only people that have watched it and know the link can watch it. Yeah, not to worry, Chris. Good to see you, man. I hope you're doing well, man. I got a whole fucking full day of classes and I've already gone 2.5, 3 hours on the internet here. So I got to run, guys. Y'all good looking, sexy. Okay, you're still here? Yeah, don't worry. There's Miss Mary Moon. So why did I mention, why did I bring you up? I wanted to ask you a question, Miss Mary Moon. If I missed anything that you guys said in the ideas room chat, please come back and put it as a comment in the video. I think I just wanted to say thank you. Oh, you probably were just laughing about the way me and a Gemini were battling it out, you know? We never really fell into that vein of, oh, yeah, we can agree on this, but we could agree to disagree. And so you saw the clear battle that I always have with all Geminis. You know, they approach everything from a more intellectual viewpoint and perspective, and I just approach it entirely from self-based fantasy and delusionalism, right? So fun stuff. And guys, make sure you sub and check out Eric Dubé if you haven't already. I think that he's worthwhile. Me and Simon talked about him a little bit today, and some reason Simon said that he thinks Eric Dubé may have chilled out and is promoting an agenda, but I don't know. Guys, I've got to run. I got a ton of shit I've got to get done, but I want to give this last shout out because Eric Dubé, I consider him to be a gentle and pure soul, and I think that he's really seeking truth in his own way, and I think that all of his videos have something to offer. Guys, I want to remind you that Monsieur Tiedrick out in the ideas room, he went over to buy me a coffee recently and really unloaded with the big guns. 16-inch cannons off the side of the battleship, right? 18-inch cannons. Eric Dubé, I put his name here. You can check him out. He's got a YouTube channel. I can't, Jeff. I got to start class at 8, man. I still have to organize my notes and make myself another cup of coffee. And it looks like I've only got like 15 minutes before class starts. And I got to get my kids up, get them to wash their faces and get ready for their online classes. Yeah, I think that's part of it. I agree with you, Miss Mary Moon. Everyone out in Happy Land, stay well, stay free, keep fighting the good fight, keep your nose to the grindstone. Y'all good looking, sexy people, you know the drill. As above, so below as we wander into the abodes of the future. Until then, keep doing good magic, and I will see you soon. Bye for now.